gamers, this is the People's Machine coming at you with another episode of the Gaming Roundtable, and it has been a long time since I've done any videos here for Unpaid Gamers. That's right, we haven't done anything, I think, in a grand old time. Very busy lives that we live, and we're going to try to, I think, this year to try to get back in the swing of things. So, hey, if you haven't listened to this in a while, thank you for still staying tuned. If you unsubscribed, I understand. If you should subscribe because you saw some of our early videos, we thank you for that. And this is January 12th, 2025. The Gaming Roundtable is still alive and well, contrary to what people believe. And Unpaid Gamers is still around, alive and well. And with us today for this episode of the year review, 2024 year review, here on Table Talk, is the founder and the administrator and the undertaker of the Unpaid Gamers, Posthuman Guy, my good and close personal friend John. Welcome back to Gaming Roundtable. Welcome to Table Talk. How you been?
Thank you. What's up?
Not a whole lot. It's been a kind of crazy year in 2024, and continues a little bit into 2025. And those of y'all know that most of the eastern parts of the U.S. got completely shit on by Mother Nature the last couple of days from ice and snow. How you been weathering that?
It's been fine. I haven't really had much issue.
That's good.
I mean, the ice for a day or two, I can't really say it sucked. I mean, I stayed in, but you know, we got that truck now, so it's all
that helps.
Just get around. So
no, that's good.
You know, we were kind of really stocked up anyway because we had, you know, the kids in for the holidays and stuff.
Gotcha.
So we were stocked up with food, and then like a day or two before, kind of ran around all over town to get more
provisions.
And stuff, you know, but it's been fun. The biggest frustration is just trying to get work done.
Yeah, I feel that. You probably had to do a lot of remote stuff, which is, but you know, other than that, I mean, I'm just glad that everybody's safe, everybody's good, and you know, you weathered that out, because Monday was pretty much the shits, yesterday was kind of the shits, and I missed work because of it, and then I had a death in the family, and I had to go to the funeral for that, and just been kind of busy. Yeah, no, it was not unexpected, but kind of out of left field in a way. So you know, I had to take care of that, and talk about though, and when we're getting into the games and stuff, which is typically what our channel is about here on Unpaid Gamers. In 2024 though, let's talk about that. You know, what have you been more or less playing, and what's been some of the games for you that's been your go-to over this last, you know, few months here in 2024? What's been your poison, man? What you been playing?
Well, you know, so it's kind of funny because I seen Desiree actually posted her PlayStation Roundup thing.
Yes, I've got one too. Yeah. And
I was looking at it, and I was, you know, her hours that she played and stuff, and I was like, I wonder what mine was, you know?
Yeah, see, because she's
I know I haven't played much, and I know, you know.
Yeah, she posted hers up, and it's funny because almost everything she played outside of Fortnite was Dead by Daylight. Because my fiance, by the way, is, I know there's no esport for Dead by Daylight, but she would be grand champion, because I tell you, I can watch her play 100 games. And she'll get out 99% of the time. She's incredible at the game. Incredible. 1,000 hours plus. She's great at it. Yeah.
So, I won't blast her stats on here or anything. But so I was curious though when I pulled up mine, and I was really surprised at how little I played actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So mine is 27 games played. Now this is just PlayStation.
Yeah.
Hours played though 197.
That's okay, yeah.
That's nothing for the year.
No, not really, no.
But my top game was Helldivers 2, apparently.
Okay, yeah, you did play a lot of that. We didn't get to play it much because I came so late to the party, and then, you know, life hits you in the head, and then you ain't got time to really jump into things like you would want to, you know. So it's, but no, Helldivers was your number one.
yeah, that was my 2024, I guess, mainly played game. Now, as far as what's been occupying my time the past couple months, I've been fleshing out my Steam Deck library a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've been playing, not PlayStation really. I've been playing Power Rangers on it,
Okay, yes,
the
yeah.
Rita's Rewind, and Indiana Jones on Xbox.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that the Indiana Jones game is really good. Like I've seen some stuff on it. It looks pretty awesome. I know it's coming on Sony at some point, but yeah, it looks good. It looks really good, yeah.
It's great. It's
No,
really
okay.
great. So yeah, I mean, I guess to go ahead and get into that, it's really really well done. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people that was sold on the first person aspect of it,
Yeah, I can see that.
but it really doesn't bother me at all. I like it. I mean, but we're coming from era to where a lot of first person shooters, a lot of that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's largely from a lot of the same people who did Riddick back in the day. So if you know how that game played out, this is really somewhat that formula. Like it's mostly
Okay.
first person, but some things you do, it pulls the camera back and it is a little bit of third person, and mostly just like when you're using the whip and you're doing that kind of thing. It
Yes.
is switched to that. Um, but yeah, it's a great game. Like it really feels like Indiana Jones. Troy Baker, of course, voices Indy.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, and
He
Troy
does
Baker's great.
a Yeah, he's amazing, but he does like an incredible job. And I wouldn't say, I mean, he is doing a Harrison Ford impression. Now, in his approach to it, he's doing an impression of Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
I guess take the pressure off. But I mean, you're playing it, and like, I don't know, if you hear like a comparison, his voice does sound a little bit different than Harrison Ford's, but like when you're also just kind of playing it, like they're using Harrison's likeness and like it looks
Yeah.
just like him while you're
It fits.
playing. I
Yeah.
mean, it is like it's a dead ringer for indie voice and everything. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, I could probably just play it for somebody randomly,
Mhm.
and they would just think it's him, because
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds like a young
Yeah.
Harrison Ford.
Well, that's good. That's good. That that he's able to emulate that to where it fits.
Yeah. And and like we've played many licensed games over the years, and sometimes those voice actors are horrendous, and sometimes they're really spot on. And like,
Yeah.
it's impressive on how much it sounds like him, but most importantly, though, it's never like a distraction at all. And like that's what a
That's
game
good.
like that needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you feel
I
like you're
feel
just
that.
playing
Yeah.
indie.
Yeah.
Um,
And you see the thing
Gameplay
with
wise,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, the thing about that, real quick to interject, is if you look at Indiana Jones games in general, there's very few.
Yeah.
There's Indiana Jones trilogy on Super NES. There was an Atari one. I remember playing one on the N64, and then I played, and again, it was like most of the indie games I played. The one that I remember the most was a third-person game. I want to say was on original Xbox. I want to say that. I feel like
So like
that's
Infernal Machine or something like that.
yeah, the Infernal Machine, and it's kind of like since then there's been none, like, and the closest thing you're going to get to using a whip in a game is going to be City of Brass, which was a roguelike game that I own on the Switch. So, but no, it's one of those things that it's an untapped resource, but I guarantee you the license to be able to pay for the license for Indiana Jones has got to be really expensive, just
It's
for
gotta
somebody to
be. I've heard though
pony up.
with the success, I think the rumor is they're asking for more, which they should. I mean, it's great. And I think it's a
Yeah,
great way for that character to kind of live on, because I think Harrison's done with the films
like
now,
pretty much is. Yeah, yeah.
and with his age and everything. But it's really really impressive. Like, so not to get too spoilers or anything, the very first part is almost like this introduction to it, and it's really like you kind of play through a little bit of the Raiders of the Lost Ark
Oh, neat,
intro,
neat,
with
yeah.
the wall and that kind of thing. And this
No, yeah,
very
Big Rock,
iconic thing.
neat,
And it's
neat.
like shot for shot almost, in part.
That's cool. That's cool.
And it mixes in gameplay, and then like it kind of goes from there of like pulls you out of that into the current game. But
Yeah.
it's kind of there for a little bit of a reason. But like gameplay wise, so again, it's first person. You're really exploring these large biomes.
Yeah.
And it's mostly like open world.
Is it like a hub based thing where you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have your main quest, but there's also some side stuff you can do.
Mhm.
It's not like these big giant open world things, but it's kind of these little hub areas, and then like you move from one to the other, and like
Got it. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you travel around the globe. So like there's a whole section where you're like exploring the Vatican and stuff, and then like I left there, and in Indiana Jones fashion, it shows the map with the red dots.
Oh yeah, and yeah.
And then you go to Egypt, and then you kind of explore around that. But like,
that's cool.
So different areas like that. It has the tomb exploration stuff and puzzle solving, which I love in games like that.
Yeah.
It's very much just that whole like. There's really not a lot of that whole Uncharted Tomb Raider style of game anyway.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Mhm.
The combat's really fun enough, I guess. Like it's mostly hand to hand. You do have a gun. I don't think I've ever fired it actually.
Yeah.
Because like it's built in a way to where you can kind of sneak around and knock people out or fist fight them.
Well,
like
if you think about the movies, I mean, yeah, he used his gun, but very sparingly. It was always him running from bullets or like using his whip or using his mind. He only kind of resorted to the guns when he was kind of inconvenienced, like with Raiders, where the guy had the sword and he was just like, man, boom, and shot him,
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that scene is, a lot of people, for movie fans out there, Harrison was really sick when he did that scene, and originally it called for like a fight, right? And he was so sick, and it was like, but he can't just walk away from a set, and they knew that, so he was all like, what if I just pull out my gun and shoot him? Because I can't. I'm too ill, like, to be doing whatever. He was feverish. That's why he was all sweaty and stuff. And they were like, okay. And Steven was like, yeah, we can do that. And he just did it, and it became like a funny, unintentionally funny, comedic. But it's so memorable, and it all became because Harrison Ford had like the flu or something.
It's a hilarious Ablin thing. So I mean, like I said, you have a pistol that you carry around, and you can get guns and stuff from other characters, enemies, But like the only one you can really kind of carry long term is your pistol. Like the other ones you can kind of have, and then you'll drop as you pick up something else.
Got you.
But they've just done such a good job with the gameplay that like it doesn't feel necessary. And like I said, I've never even fired his gun.
Oh, okay.
So far. So you can fist fight and sneak up on me, and you can do hilarious stuff too, like just shove people off of. If you're fighting them on an edge, you can just push them right off or something.
Oh, that's great. See, that's kind of interesting because that's kind of what they did. The company that made the RoboCop game, like it's a first-person shooter more or less, but like you can pick them up and throw them through windows. They're up in buildings, and like it's kind of hub-based, and it's kind of like, even though there are two different companies, they took that same approach, which is like, how do we make RoboCop feel like RoboCop? Yeah. I mean,
it feels like Indy, and that feels like RoboCop. I know what you mean. Like you can't really pick up people and throw them. You can just kind of like push them and shove them back a little bit.
Yeah, but now, that's cool.
If you knock them out or whatever, you can pick them up and hide the body.
Yeah, okay. Stealth style, yeah.
There's disguises and stuff that you can have, so you can roll around areas more freely.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I love the tomb stuff. The story is really, really good. And that was another thing, too, because, Indiana Jones movies, they always have a lot of great subject matter.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
And this one is no different. Like, it's very early on, you encounter Tony Todd as one of the characters, and he's like this giant,
Oh, okay.
So they
Now-
play
now-
into the whole.
Well, Tony
genre
Todd just passed
Nephilim
away
stuff.
recently, so is this like the last thing he did?
Maybe video game wise, I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause I know-
think he's in
yeah.
some Final Destination movie that's coming out.
Yeah, but
it
he
was one of his
yeah
last
he
roles.
passed away real recently. Yeah. And I just like
But-
Tony Todd because Tony Todd, he played Kern, who was Worf's brother on Star Trek Next
yeah.
Generation, and that's where I first saw him. And then, of course, from his the first Candyman movie, which is Clive Barker, and I'm a Clive Barker fan, so it's kind of like that was what I knew him from. But mainly Kern, for your Star Trek fans, he played his brother, So it's like, oh,
Yeah,
Tony
he just
Todd,
played
okay.
Venom in that new Spider-Man game too.
Oh, did he? Okay, that's good voice for that. Yeah, good voice for that. Yeah, but no, I'm
Yeah,
happy
so
to hear.
he's in it.
Yeah,
his
that's
likeness
cool.
Is in it, and
That's
he's
cool.
Plays
Very
this
neat.
giant, so it really plays into like the whole biblical giant Nephilim kind of thing. And
Nice,
it's
nice.
just very fitting for that universe, that
Yeah.
story, and I don't know. It's a really, really solid game. It captures exactly just that Indiana Jones feel. And
Yeah.
It just feels like an extension of the series, really.
That's awesome.
And I think it would
That's
be a
awesome.
great way, if they just continued to make the episodic stories like that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Continued that character on in that way. So
No, that's awesome. That's good to
absolutely
hear.
Great game.
That's great to hear. I know for me in 2024, I racked up 1,004 hours on my PlayStation, and I played 509 games. So, yeah, that's 2,093 play sessions. So that was a lot. I favored, it seemed like, a lot of racing games in 2024, I guess because, Test Drive Unlimited came out. I put a lot of time in that. My fiance played it too, and she liked it a lot. And I played Need for Speed Unbound quite a bit. I played The Crew quite a bit. I don't know what racing games. I just went through this spiel for a few months where I was like, racing. But, I was also playing, like I was just telling you, before we went live, I had been playing the Avengers, and I just kind of got back into it. And as I leveled up and got into the 25th level, 26th level, 30th level for certain characters, and as you unlock more skills, it's still one of those games that's remarkable because it feels like a completely different game versus when you're playing when your character's level 5. Because when you start unlocking all the other abilities, it's like remarkable game to play. It feels like multiple different kinds of games in one, and so it's again it's still such a shame. The potential of that game was pretty substantial, and it just bombed. But like I say, I also kind of got back into the last couple of days. I've been playing Suicide Squad, and
What was your top game played?
top
on that,
game.
on that roundup?
Let me see here. I'll tell you. Let me go back. So my top months, let's see here. These are, it shows you every month what you were playing, and I got,
That's it.
yeah, it goes month to month what you played throughout the month. But my top 5 games, 34 hours into Test Drive, No Man's Sky was the exact same 34 hours, because No Man's Sky is just, I love that game, but it's another one of those games that you can play forever. So it's like, my third game was Avengers, and my fourth game was Fortnite, and my fifth game was Cyberpunk. But my top was Test Drive for whatever reason in 2024, even though I felt like I played other games more, because all of January it was like Cyberpunk. I played Atlas Fallen, Reign of Sand, Dragon's Dogma 2, Exoprimal, Sea of Thieves I played a bunch of, V Rising, their Suicide Squad, Earth Defense Force 6, Test Drive in September, Hunt Showdown, Fortnite, and then Dark Tide in December was my big game in December because, Warhammer. And Warhammer, and that's the other thing, too. Mainly the 2 games I've played a lot of besides Avengers, and that is I've been playing that Warhammer Dark Tide, which is fantastic, and I've been playing that Space Marine 2, which is, again, to me, this has been a great year for Warhammer fans, especially in the video games, because those 2 games alone are so good and so solid and so encapsulates just the lore and the look and the feel and the vibe of Warhammer 40K, the dark, the whole grim dark future. It's remarkable. Dark Tide in particular was, to me, just was amazing, and I just love the game. And it's like a love letter to Warhammer. And then, like, of course, Space Marine 2, which is a long-awaited sequel to a game that I absolutely loved with the first one that came out. And just to kind of catch up with Titus and where he's at and what's going on with him, I was telling my fiance earlier how right off the bat, without them saying a word in the game, and the game starts and there's Titus and he's got the chain around his armor with the lock. I was like, what's he doing in the Death Watch? Like, I knew just from this solid chain on his arm. Why is he in the Death Watch? Is that what happened after he got taken away in the first game by the Inquisition? Like, it's crazy. So it's like, and that game is cool, and I didn't realize at the time that it's made by the people who made World War Z, who, that's why they're able to do those hordes so well with all the different creatures at once. They made Warhammer Space Marine 2, which is cool, And weirdly enough, World War Z, they just added more content like last month. Again, they keep adding more and more to that game, so it's neat that game is still going. Like, they keep adding characters and new.
Some games do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're able to really continue development on some of those games. Like, it's not like that's a super popular one, really.
No, they did the Aftermath update when the PS5 had been out for a little bit, and it upgraded it. And then you could play, that game was always third person, right? And it kind of felt a little bit like The Division, but like with the zombies and the hordes. But then they put the first person in there. And then you could play the game in first person, kind of like Left 4 Dead or in Back 4 Blood, for instance. And even though that came out before Back 4 Blood, but you could now play in first person. So, like, the dynamic of the game was really different. And then you got the free PS5 upgrade, so it was kind of like, oh, cool, and I've got this first-person mode now, and I can see my weapons. I don't have to play in third, and then there was nothing wrong with playing in third, because it felt really good in third person, but the first person, it felt more like Left 4 Dead, so it was like, well, that's interesting, and then they kept adding, it started out with 4 areas to play in, different parts of the world, and you had different survivors, different skills, and you picked an archetype. But then there was like, oh, here's 4 more in this part of the world. Oh, here's another 4, and they just one. The latest one, which I got for free, was like the SimCity one. So you're like in Las Vegas, and all 4 new characters and 4 new. And it's like they just weirdly keep putting stuff out for that game, even though that game's been out for a long time, and you don't hear much about it, but they just been like, no, here's some more content, it's kind of crazy. But they made Warhammer Space Marine 2 in between doing all that, and totally knocked it out of the park. Warhammer 2 Space Marine is just insane with its... The shooting is awesome. The graphics are awesome. The combat is like just visceral and like, holy cow. And it still kind of feels like the first game, but much more improved. And it's just great. And between that and Dark Tide's first-person combat, they just the feel of the bolt guns and the combat and everything. Like, for a game company, Fat Shark made it, and it's like they don't really make shooters. There was gun elements in Vermintide 2. There was spell casting and arrows that you could shoot, and it all felt pretty good, but it was primarily a melee type style of game in a lot of ways. And to have them come back and do a game that's, even though there's melee in the game, shooting is kind of the main. They just killed it. Like, I can't believe a company just did that well off their second game. Like, there's our second game, and we made this shooter better than most other people who make shooters. It's remarkable. So and that's not because I just love Warhammer so much. I mean, that helps, but it's just they really did knock it out of the park. But those 2 titles alone were like, wow, right? And then I also have been playing Outcast: A New Beginning, which is a sequel to a game that came out like 25 years ago. And Outcast: New Beginning is awesome, like just awesome open world. Yeah, the flying, just the gliding, like it's very traversal heavy and the gunplay, and it's a fun game. There's some light puzzles, and it's kind of dialogue heavy because there's a lot of lore, but it still feels really good. It looks good. And I also got the Avatar game, Frontier Pandora or whatever, by Ubisoft, and I really like the game. It looks really good. It's fantastic, but it definitely is basically, when you play it and you're like, it's basically Avatar Far Cry. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly that. Like, the only difference is they have an option now to make, like, instead of just having a million icons on the map and go here, they have like an exploration mode. So it will say, okay, this is the area you need to be in, but they don't hold your hand. Like, they don't put like, go right here to this icon. You know, it's like they'll just highlight an area, and it's a big area. So you're like, okay, so if I go here, it could be anywhere in there. I got to find what I'm trying to do. So they did put like, because I know they get crap a lot for that, like for just trillion icons in a map. We tell you exactly where to go, and every time, everywhere, you never have to, you know exactly what you're doing, and they kind of put that mode by default, isn't it? But it does do a lot of things different from Far Cry, but it really is just that. It's got that same kind of almost gameplay like loop in a way. The mission structure is different, but it's still more like, if I have, let's say, for example, I like in Far Cry, you know, before it'd be like, let me run up and gather some plants. You just gather the plants. Now they made it to where you grip the plants and you got to pull them with one stick, and then do it in a way that won't damage the plant, so you can get like better versions of the plant. You know what I mean? Or you'll let me grab this to make arrows, and you're not just grabbing something to make arrows. You're actually having to wiggle it and do things, so you're not completely. So you can get like, I'm gonna make, I broke it, shit, right? I gotta go, you know. So they try to put more dynamic stuff in there, but it does feel a lot like they took a lot of, and it makes sense to Ubisoft. But you know, and I only paid like $18 for it because I got a GameStop gift card, and it didn't sell real well for whatever reason, and so it's really cheap new, like it's really cheap new, and so I picked it up because I was like, well, you know, I liked the first Avatar game on 360, and that was a third-person hub-based open-world game, and this is a open-world game, but it's very Far Cry Avatar is the best way I can describe it. It has that kind of thing, you know, about it, except you're playing like an 8-foot tall Navi, and that's interesting in the game world when everything looks so much smaller than you, and you got a hub, and you got, you know, the rest of this ginormous map. It means huge portion of Pandora, but mainly
Ubisoft's formula too. I think, just take that whole Far Cry thing and just apply a licensed world to it. And like, on one hand, it's unoriginal and like it'd be nice to have some innovative thing, but at the same time, like, it is a pretty good formula, really.
It works.
And like, they make it look good enough. And like, I don't know. I don't necessarily hate that plan, especially for me, because I don't play the Far Cry games anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm burnt out on the formula, really.
Let me. Hold on just a second.
Now, of course, they make Star Wars.
Okay, sorry.
Too.
Yes, and that's interesting too. Now, let me ask you. You talked to me a little bit about Star Wars Outlaws, and everything you told me about it. You know, you were enjoying it. I know the game was not all that successful, and you know, here's the thing about that. And I'm going to ask you your opinion, and we're going to talk a little bit about that game because I don't own it. I would probably get it when it gets a little cheaper, but at some point, because I'm still interested. Hey, I like Star Wars games anyway, right? And then you played it. Do you understand from? I know we talked about it before. The internet hates everything, but do you think the game's not being successful or selling as well as Ubisoft wanted or whatever they expected do you really just think people just could not deal with the fact that there was not Jedis in the game? Is it really just based on not having the Force powers? It seemed like everyone's beef with it was that, but I'm like, but Star Wars and the Force stuff, that's like in almost all the games, except for like Pod Racer and Rebel Assault 2. And it's like, or was the game just formulaic, Ubisoft, repetitive, typical shit that they do? I mean, how do you weigh on it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it is very, I don't know, there's parts that I could see as feeling generic.
Yeah.
And I would attribute that to the kind of the cookie cutter Ubisoft formula there.
Yeah.
There's parts that are really great, and it's a fun game.
Yeah.
I think the main character, there's a lot of dislike for that.
Yeah.
I know why, like, some games, of course, focus on a single pre-made character and do this story, but it's not like the story is so overwhelmingly great that it needed to have that. I think they could have put a character creator in there and eliminated that whole problem.
Yeah, that would have been probably best.
And I think, like, for me personally, I'm relieved that it didn't have Jedis in it, like, to that degree, because, that is, like, while playing the whole Jedi experience is what everybody really wants, there's so much about Star Wars that's not that.
Yeah.
So I like that another game spends time exploring that, because used to we would get a lot of that back in the day, like with Dark Forces and
Dark Forces 2 and Jedi Academy and Outcast,
yeah, all that stuff. Well, Jedi Academy though was you played like Jedi, right?
Yeah.
And
Or
Jedi
you could
Outcast was kind of halfway that. We had Knights of the Old Republic, and then we got the Force Unleashed games, and we got the Jedi Survivor series and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of Jedi.
We've really hit a lot of that, and while everybody loves it, and that's amazing to play those, I'm fine with them exploring other things.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because people's beef with that is interesting to me, because let's just think about this, like Star Wars Battlefront, the originals, or let's just go to the Battlefront 2 and the new ones that DICE made. If you think about that, like, even though it's multiplayer focused, like the single player campaign, you play as Iden Versio, who's a daggone TIE fighter pilot. She's not a Jedi. She does not use Force powers in the game. Luke's in it, but you never play as him. You play as him, I don't even think you really play as him. I think you play as him very briefly.
I think he's a hero, isn't he?
Yeah. He's in the game in the multiplayer, but in the actual campaign, the story, you play as him very briefly, and you're just killing like things in a cave, right? Yeah. But here's the thing: it's not focused on the Jedi. Star Wars Republic Commando is a very was hugely popular. They remastered it, and it sold again pretty well. You're not playing Jedis in that, and also you're not in the remaster of that was a successful game, Star Wars Bounty Hunter. You might be dealing with Jedi, you fight Jedi, Sith Lord, but you play as a bounty hunter. So
they did that in TIE Fighter too.
Yeah. So it's really weird that there has been successful games that nobody seemed to have a problem with them not being Jedi. But this particular game, I heard a lot of people online just, like YouTube personalities and review sites and stuff like, I'm not interested in playing something else. It's like everybody, that was a big stick point for them. I'm like, but there's been several games that didn't have that, and it was fine. I mean, granted, you can't.
I think it's the bar of Jedi Survivor and stuff sets it so high.
And they are good. Those are
truly unbelievable games. And
they're really good.
Coming right off of that, like it's the best Star Wars has been, I think.
Yeah, because Outcast, I got on the PS4 and then upgraded for free. That game, I remember playing it like, oh, this is basically like Dark Souls, with its type of combat, but like Jedi, it was so good. I was like, this is awesome. And yeah, you're probably right. It's just that's hard to get over that,
But not every game's going to be like that, and it shouldn't be like that. And
I agree.
Outlaws does some really great things. It focuses on that criminal underworld thing. You got the different factions, and you do missions, and you kind of, explore that loyalty factor, in favor of this gang and fall out of favor with this one, and it does some neat stuff. It's not really overwhelmingly amazing in anything,
Yeah.
but it's cool, and its little open world sections are pretty cool, and you can ride around your speeder and do your missions and explore stuff. And I liked what I've played of it so far, and now there is an issue too with some of the stealth stuff, and I think they patched it since, and they did like a big patch not too long ago that fixed a lot of the complaints apparently, but
Yeah.
I played it at launch, and a lot of people really complained about the stealth in the game, and not that it's necessarily bad, but it forced you into a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of kind of instant failure things if you were spotted with that, and
which is always kind of shit. Yeah. Yeah, I tell you. No, and the only reason I was asking about that is because this is another year. We had a lot in 2022 and 2023 and 2024. We saw, a lot of games that try to be live service fail. We saw other games that came out and got very bad press for either being woke or being whatever's going on there. We also saw some studio closures. We saw, Activision Blizzard laid off 1,800 employees. There was like a lot of layoffs, and a lot of the big companies were laying people off. So it's a really weird thing, because for all of it, intents and purposes, if you looked at the industry as a whole, it's for every pretty remarkable success, which was typically indie games or smaller companies, imagine that. And it seems like the bigger companies have been spending so much money and putting all their eggs in certain things. How do you feel about throughout the year it was just like layoffs, and this game failed, and this game failed, and this server's shutting down, and we're just, it's like, there's so much involved. You find out there were so many people, we're going to do it the game this way. No, it seemed like a lot of people in the AAA side of things just could not get their shit together, or they were just chasing, other people's successes, and they just weren't doing well. It seemed like a lot of games seemingly floundered, where others kind of was like, oh, this was the number one game. I know when Dark Tide came out in November on the PS5, after 2 years of updates and everything, that's the version that they got. That was the number one game in December sold on the PlayStation Network. So, and again, Fat Shark, they don't make a lot of games. So, how do you kind of weigh that when you hear about this company laid off 1,800 people, this company laid off? Do you think Activision Blizzard has Call of Duty and it's Blizzard with Diablo? I know Diablo 4 had a lot of problems with it. Even though I have it, I think it's a good game. I was skeptical of an open world Diablo, but it works. And I did play it, and I did find it to be a fun game to play. It became a go-to game for me, but it was just a game that when I was playing, I was like, this is pretty cool. I don't see what people were saying, yeah, but it was one of those things where I was like, how do you think? What do you think would have been a contributing factor to multiple companies laying off, is it just out of touch?
Okay.
Is it
Activision specifically? I don't know that I would kind of lump them in there, because they had their purchase, part of the purchase of Microsoft, and I guarantee there's a lot of restructuring there. So I don't know that I would lump it in the same category.
Got it.
Personally, maybe, but I don't know. But I really think, we've talked at length before about how just franchise games and stuff are just lame and suck, and the rise of the indie games, and that's really, I think, what we're really seeing is because game development takes so long. So I think, I think it's gonna it takes a bit for these companies to catch up. So there was not, in my opinion, a time when that Suicide Squad game was coming out where people were really looking forward to it. I don't think.
No, I think they were initially.
We all knew it was gonna fail.
Yeah. Well, I think
Like,
they were
when
initially.
the first announcement, yes,
Oh,
but then they
Rocksteady.
said it
Oh,
was
yeah.
live service, and then it was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
and like everybody, it seemed like they just knew it was gonna suck, and then like it
Yeah.
comes out, and of course it has its struggles, and like, oh, big surprise there. You
Yeah.
wasted all this money making this game that really.
Yeah, we were
nobody really
just
wanted.
saying, folks, that Warner lost $200 million in the game. $200 million is a lot of damn money. No, it's a
And
lot.
I think it's just things like that. Like, it's a lot of, like, it's missteps, but missteps on a scale that has been unlike anything that the industry's seen, because games are so expensive and more monumental now, and like,
Yeah.
it's just it's silly, because it really shouldn't. It's a problem across the board. Like, these companies, they can't really take risks because there's so much money involved, so they end up making the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I think people are finally kind of getting sick of it. We've been sick of it for a long time.
Oh, a long
We've been
time.
forever.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
I think it's starting to just show across the board, and same game every year and stuff like that. Like, the quality of these big budget AAA titles are, like, it's terrible. Half the games
Yeah.
are unfinished. If it's not that, it's part of an annual thing, and it's released, largely the same every year, or it's just like this other thing. Or, rarely do you have a AAA game that holds interest and is really successful. And not to say they don't happen, because Indiana Jones happens.
But
there are these things that come out, like God of War, or like almost universally accepted games that come out that are large budget. They do still happen.
Yeah.
So much is lame, and I feel like it's finally these studios like getting their spanking from it.
Well, if you think about it this way, look at 2018 Spider-Man comes out, right? And it's really good, right? But it wasn't like, 8 months later we got Spider-Man 2. It was like a few years, right? So to not have, like, we got to put a Spider-Man game out every fucking 10 months. It's like, no, it's the number of years passed.
Miles in between.
Yeah, but the point was there was that gap, Like, here's the interesting, like, you were talking to me about Madden 25 in college, right? And it was interesting to be like, universally, college, everyone loved and was like, this is great, it plays like this, and everybody thought it was great, and you think, but immediately went back to, so Madden comes out every 10 and a half months, right? 11 months, and college hasn't been around forever. They finally make a college game. How the hell did y'all make it better than your franchise game? Like, how did that happen? You made the first college game in years, so it shows that they can do it. They can make things better. They can but they just choose not to. That's what leads me to think, well, is college 2026? Are they going to start that same cookie cutter?
And like that, it was honestly a real surprise for me to see that play out that way, because it's like they painted themselves in a corner is what they did, and it's like a glaring example of what we all know anyway. Like, we know they can make Madden better, they just don't.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit, I think it was a little bit of like a different team slightly to make the college football or something like that. But it's like, you could do it if you wanted. It's,
Well, it all goes back to what you told me. This was a number of years ago. I'll never forget it. This is guys. This goes back long before, and dial-up was still around, I think. But you always had said you never understood how one game has this, and next game you took some features out when they were in the other game in the first place. Why take them out? Just leave them in and just make the game better. Just keep adding more features, and then. But like with Madden, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, we got this all new pass. No, that was in Madden 2016. Like, why? Well, don't say it's new when it's not new. It's like it was in the game. Why are you doing it? So I think it's interesting that's how that. So I never understood why they do that, and I think when you, like you said, with the college and Madden, it's that example. Like you said, we're going to phone in Madden. but we can't make. I think the idea for them must have been, well, we can't just put college out with the Madden engine and just.
Right. Yeah. They had to spend time on it.
Yeah. So because if you didn't, because they've been like, this is just Madden reskin. Well, fuck you. So that's interesting. Now that's going back to that. Yeah.
So yeah, that came out this year, and of course the new Madden came out this year, and I played them both at length. I haven't spent this much time in Madden in a long time.
Yeah.
But mainly because what I wanted to do is something I never did back in the day, which was to. Now it's a little different, but back in the day you could export your draft class and stuff and bring it into Madden, and you can't really do that this time, but you can take a character you make, play through your college career, and then bring it into Madden and play that way.
Which I think is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never really done anything like that years ago, so I wanted to do it this year, just play through. So I started with college football, played a whole 4-year thing, and then went pro and did that. And I don't know, I can't, I had fun in both, for sure.
Yeah.
Immediately going to Madden, it was like, oh, this isn't as good.
Yeah.
It felt like more arcadey and not as I don't know. College football feels more weighty and it was just more fun to play, I think. And then the career mode is what you play basically in in Madden, and there's so much more they could do with it, and they just don't.
It often makes me think of, you could sit there and argue that, well, they got to put it out every 11 months, 10 months, 11 months. It's around that time, 10, 11 months. And, if we had to come up with really new motion captured animations or motion captured paths or whatever, or if we had to really put it would take time to program that and make sure it was working out of the gate, and they're like, we don't have time to do that anymore. The problem with
do that, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the whole thing is that I think they do have time. I think it's just boiled down to how can we put out a game that's not going to cost us a whole lot of money to produce, to maximize their dollars, because people who get into, especially since we talked about this a long time ago in a video where and I think I did a thing on it too about EA off just the MUT cards, the MUT version of the game, where they buy the car, $800 million, almost $1 billion they make a year, and they put out another game. Well, gotta buy all those cards again because you can't carry anything else. And it's so that's.
I honestly don't know what eats up the resources, though, to be honest. Because, okay, I understand that's your money-making mode, so you leave it in and, whatever. But it's not like that takes a lot of development time to redo every year. So, I really wonder what they actually do. I mean, they do a little bit of features, and I know, an annual title, you got the production timeline and things like that. You get very little time to actually work on it, and that's part of the problem, really.
Yeah.
But you would think still, because used to, back in the day, you could, I used to never buy Madden every year and stuff, and not to say I do now, but, I would skip 4 or 5 years and you would actually get some benefit that way.
True.
But now, if I go back and play Madden 21, I'm sure it'll probably feel largely the same as what this is.
Yeah.
So,
you see, true.
It's very little improvement. And, there's so many, okay, for example, you're playing Superstar mode in Madden 25.
Yeah.
Your rookie contract is 4 years come in. So you got to play 4 years before you can attempt to try to go to another team.
Yeah.
However, you can try to force a trade after your first season or whatever. But I guess it's a glitch in Superstar mode or something to where I think you maybe get one offer, and if you reject it or something, then your character's forced to retire. It's they don't give you options like a player would want to maybe potentially try to go to a team they try to get to or something. And apparently that issue or glitch or whatever you want to call it, that thing that doesn't see it seemingly locks you out of your game, forces you to enjoy
Yeah.
it, has been in there for years, and everybody complains about it, but it never gets fixed.
Now,
So,
that makes you wonder if the source code for that game, they're just using the same source code every year, and they know about the bug, but they don't know where it's at in the source code, or they don't know, or they're just like, fuck it. We're not going to
yeah, I just don't think they put attention in that, and I don't know. It seems like a shame, really, this year. Like, I really wondered what they were going to do this year because, I had a feeling that college football was going to be good. So, like, do you put out a crappy product like you do,
Yeah.
And, like, it seemed like they just kind of did put out the same Madden that they always do. Now, I do wonder, though, how this next year is going to play out because this college football was so well received. You have your people that will always like Madden and the current Madden, but, like, largely the same opinion of, well, college football's great, Madden's the same old. So, what do they do next year?
College 2026. Yeah.
It would have been the perfect opportunity to really revamp that superstar mode this time because you're going to have people that will want to play, because they bundled them together. You could buy them together anyway.
Yeah.
And save like $10 or whatever. But, like that's how you bridge the two, and like it would have been perfect to really flesh that out. But
it's like you said. It's kind of like it's kind of like you said. There's game companies, those companies like that just the opportunity's there, and they just don't take it. And it's the same thing. Let's go back to WB and let's go back to that and Suicide Squad. Like I had said this a while back. I might have even done it on Table Talk, which was. You have this game, it's a live service, you're going to have battle passes, a battle pass for each season. So there's 4 seasons, 4 battle passes. Then you can buy the premium, but that's the premium for season 1, the premium for season 2. Like it's very monetized, and you go into the loot aspects, and you do all this stuff, and you go, this game and this game and this game and this game and this game are doing exactly what you did. They all failed. You were all making them. There's no way that nobody at Rocksteady didn't go to somebody and say, "Hey, this is not going to work. These other games are doing what we're doing. They don't want that." And they just said, "Nope, you're doing it." And it's so crazy to me because when I do play the game, and I'm playing as, let's say, Deadshot, and I'm flying around. My jetpack, it feels kind of like Anthem, where I'm switching to Harley and I'm doing grappling hooks, and it feels a little different. And I do like some of the loot aspects of it. It's a little deeper than people most, and there's glimpses of the old school Rocksteady kind of gameplay, even though it's primarily shooting focused more than anything. It's a shooter. It's a third-person open world hero shooter, and it just goes to like, okay, so you all made this game with all the stuff these other games that failed had, and you just kept going. It's like that's a missed opportunity. Like somebody should have said we can't do that, right? And no one did. And like I feel like you're saying, like EA, it's like EA is a missed opportunity. This game a missed opportunity. This game a miss. Like it's right in front of them on what not to do. And they just do it anyway. It blows my mind. Like, you guys are dumb. Like, you guys are stupid.
I don't know. And it's not just games either. You see it, like, across all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. True.
And I always think about that, too. Like, somebody somewhere said, you know what? That is a great idea.
Yeah.
And like, no, it's not, man.
It's awful. Why are you doing... Yeah.
Like the college football, right? So, I make my character. I play it. It's time for me to go to what school I want to play, and I get like a lot of choices where I can go.
Yeah.
And they largely do it kind of how the NBA 2K stuff does. Like, okay, here's the teams that are interested in you. If you start there, you'll be a starter. You'll get plenty of play time, whatever. You can really go to whatever team you want to go, but you might just be third string and got to work your way up.
Yeah.
Because they got somebody good already. They don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. So I pick the school I want to go to. I play the little thing, time management thing, and do my schoolwork and whatever, and I work my way up from a third string to a starter, and then I finish as a senior as like a top kind of trophy winning player. So then I enter the NBA draft, bring it over to Madden, and now I realize in real life how this goes. You do get drafted by a team and stuff like that. You don't really have a choice, But like to me, there has to be like a mix of realism versus fun.
Yeah.
People want out of a game,
Yeah.
So like I get drafted to the Panthers, which nobody likes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that's like you might as well get drafted. You might as well get drafted to the Browns or yeah.
And like I've like made the playoffs, a couple times here, and I do good things with them and whatever. I'm sure I could have re-imported my character until I got maybe a better team or something that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I like playing games like that, just kind of how they play out sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the realistic way. But like I think I'm finally on my 4th season, which is the end of my rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll get a chance to go where I want to go. But it's like I kind of wish that they just made that experience a little different.
What they should have done was been like give you the option. Either you can allow them to draft you, or hey, what team would you like to be drafted to? And just allowed you to have either the randomness of it, or you wanted to go play for the Broncos. You know what I mean? Like just because people would want to play on their favorite team, right? That would be the smart choice.
I wonder, maybe they did give an option like that. I don't know for certain. But either way,
see, that's what I was. Yeah.
I wish you could like have more options to play up a role on a team, and maybe express unhappiness and try to terminate your contract early.
Yeah.
They do have that thing at the end of each season, but apparently it's glitched out and hardly lets you do anything and forces you to retire. I never tried it because I didn't want to ruin my game.
Yeah, true.
It's also, you can't like save your game save manually. It's auto save, so like
okay.
You can screw yourself up out of it and lose tons of progress if you're not
that would suck. Yeah.
And
that would be awful.
It's so minimal. Like you can go in there and you can keep track of stats, and like there's glimpses of a really cool game in that mode, but I feel like it's so basic, and it's like a missed opportunity to me.
Yeah, it could have been kind of fun. It's funny you talk about the choice stuff, if they don't give you one or if they do.
I gotta look it up.
Warner Brothers, they put out Hogwarts Legacy, and it goes to show you that whoever's running the show there are stupid. Like Warner Brothers, Hogwarts Legacy, when it came out, was the number 1 sold game that year. It's a single-player game. There's no microtransactions. There's no monetization. It is a single-player game, no multiplayer, no nothing. It's just a great RPG set in Harry Potter's universe. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, it's the best Harry Potter game they've ever made. It's fantastic. It is incredible. It's just a love letter to that universe. And one of the things I thought was interesting going in, I was like, how are they going to do the selecting hat? How are they going to do that? And so you make your character, you go through the tutorial, you go through this beginning, and it's a really awesome beginning, tutorial hidden in a really nice story, and then you get to the Hogwarts, and then you put on the hat. And they ask you all these questions, like you have to answer. You get like a multiple choice thing, right? Well, how are you this? Yeah, and then
or you can pick your own.
Or you can pick your own house. So it's kind of like you can allow them to put you in a house, but you're like, I really wanted to be in, Ravenclaw. So boom, you can just say, no, I'll choose. I get to choose. So to me, it was like, even though people were saying in the reviews that your house of choice wasn't necessarily that detrimental to what happens in the story, choice-wise, but I found out through a couple updates, they changed some of that. And so, like, some of the things you do is in your house that's very specific with certain characters, you can't like it does other characters that you run into from other houses mention it or say things, and it does kind of affect some things in the late game. And so you're like, oh, okay. And what's interesting about that game is the fact that, again, they give you like, well, if you don't like, you didn't want to be in this house, this is the question you answered, and you don't want to be Slytherin, you can choose what you want. And so that was that option for people who like, okay, well, fuck it, I guess I'm in House Slytherin. Or, oh, wait a minute, but I really love this house. You can choose that. And I thought that was a really smart way to do it. And if they do that in the college, where it's let the game decide for you who you want to be, what team, either it's a team that you're like meh down on, or if it is like this, give you the choice, or would you rather pick what team and then do a scene where it's like he's now drafted to the Packers? They just give players the option to have either way, which is not hard to do because Hogwarts did it and it's perfect. Yeah. It's like that's perfect.
I was refreshing my memory while you were talking, and yeah, Madden doesn't give you a choice. So
yeah,
you export your character, you bring it into Madden. You can kind of change your details about the character you import from there. Really, it does bring the history, but then you go into the NFL Combine, and then you just get drafted, and then that's it. And then you got to play out your rookie contract, which is definitely 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 years, and there's no skipping any games or anything. Like, you gotta play it through.
That's insane.
And yeah, it's just lame. Like, I don't know. I applaud it on one hand for kind of keeping that realism, because there's some players they don't really know where they're going. You kind of gotta go where you're drafted. And,
yeah. And make your way, yeah.
A few examples of like Eli Manning, for instance, just opting out to play for a team.
Yeah.
And getting traded to another one where he wanted. But like, I don't know. I think maybe some cool things like that could be mixed in. Like maybe there's they have these cut scenes that really go nowhere. Like you're presented with your NFL contract, but like there's no option to negotiate. At least from the initial one.
Yeah.
There's just, when you look back at some of the situations, like just playing franchise mode in Madden years ago, like that would happen with keeping players happy and having to negotiate those contracts. Like, it'd be cool if they brought, from the player's perspective, that into that mode and like, just, I don't know, made it feel like you did something other than play games and look at stats. Like,
I think that's, like you said, I think there are those big companies out there with these missed opportunities. Either they're phoning it in because of development time or because it's costing $100 million to make, and they're like, we can't this or that. Like going back to the Star Wars Outlaws, it's like seems like a foregone conclusion, but sometimes it makes you wonder, like, well, people will buy it because it's Star Wars. It's not like every Star Wars games were like the best games ever. There's several that are not very good, and like Star Wars Obi-Wan was awful, and then like there's like certain ones that are not very good, and certain ones,
I had so many of those Xbox Star Wars games.
I did too. I had a bunch, and even though like the time like I played through it and I had some enjoyment in it, I usually can find things I like about a game and go through it, but they just weren't created equal. But it's interesting how Asper Games has bought up so many of the old games and a remaster. Heck, we got Jedi Power Battles coming out in a week, with all this new stuff. I was like, that's crazy. And I played a lot of that. And for me, it's like the big companies out there doing what they're doing, and not either they're not respecting our time or they're not, like, they'll talk about a game months and months before it comes out and show stuff, and you'll just see a collective groan from people, and it's like they just choose to be like, oh, these people thought this, they downvoted the shit out of this. Like, well, don't listen to them, just keep going. It's like, why would you not? Because I think they get like, well, it's too far. We can't go back now. We can't go back and change stuff. We'll be way behind. Another game.
Pre-order stuff like a year ahead of time.
Yeah, it's like, why do I need to pre-order a game that's coming out that won't be finished if for 2 years? And it seems like And I've been saying that for a while. It's like games come out, the ones that come out unfinished, people go all the time. Well, I love Star Wars Battlefront 2. It took 2 years to get good. 2 years, That's 2 years of people playing. Or look at Fallout 76. It's pretty good. Took it 3 years to get to where it's at. Now nobody plays it, and it's like, let's talk about another one. I saw recently, I was like, they put out an expansion for Starfield. Nobody's playing it. Nobody's talking about that game anymore. Hardly anybody. I'm like, that was a huge game for like 3 weeks, and then just went done. And it didn't. You played it.
It's a very cool game. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd have to get to another one of those oddball, like, what happened there? Like, that should have been a no-brainer, but
I think
maybe
it's Xbox crowd. I think there's just not enough Xbox players.
Yeah, it's either that or I always assumed that it was Todd Howard and Bethesda's. Their games, you always said, they kind of play a certain way. The structure of their games, their missions, the way you talk to people, everything that you do in the games are so similar across the board. Maybe people are like, you know what, I'm kind of tired of that kind of RPG, especially when you play something like, I don't want to say, I don't want to like compare like No Man's Sky, because like No Man's Sky had like an 8-9 year jump on it anyway. So like they've been developing forever. So I don't like that comparison. But I look at it too, it's kind of like Outer Worlds meets Elite Dangerous in a way, but to me it was like, dated or not, the point is if people are tired of that kind of game structure, for them, you would think they would change that, and they don't. I don't know if that's a limitation of the creation engine that they've been using for years and years and years,
I think that's a large problem. I think people are tired of that engine because it makes things feel samey,
Yeah.
And I think they're a little complacent in that they know how to use it well, and I mean, I think Starfield's a great game, but I think maybe that's one of the potential problems with it. I think the other is just it's not a lot of it. But I don't know. I mean, you're hearing so much out of Indiana Jones, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing though about that, because if you think about it, if Xbox is close second place, I mean, if you think, there might be 20 million more PlayStations, let's just say, for example, but that's not. I mean, there's still a lot of Xbox players, especially Game Pass is a good incentive for people, like $10, and I can play basically everything, So I don't know. So I don't know.
Though, it's a little bit nature of the beast, though, of how, because there's so many games now.
Yeah.
So many games come out, and like you will hear the hype train for a certain thing for a little bit, and then it always kind of falls off the map. Like, and I see that like. Because there's a little bit of FOMO when it comes to some of those games, right? Like Elden Ring came out, and everybody was talking, and I don't even care about Souls games. That's not my kind of style, really.
Yeah.
But I was like, that looks really cool. Like maybe I should give that one a try, And I really thought about it for a little bit, and then everybody just stopped talking about it, and now I don't care to, So I don't know that it's just that game. I think that's just how
games
things go. I mean.
Yeah.
Because if you think about any major game we heard about, like how much are really still being talked about? It's always the next big thing.
That's true. I mean, I will say that's very true. In some ways, we've talked about this before. It's like it's kind of shitty when like, oh, these 5 amazing games are coming out this month. Well, next month there's another 5 amazing games coming out, and then next month there's another. There's no longer that. The good stuff comes out at the end of the year, and you get like some middle of the road stuff that's pretty decent, like throughout the year that's sparse. It's like now it's every month there's some crazy cool thing which is fine, but it's that whole, it's kind of like overload, in a way where you're like, okay, this game's going to be probably 100 hours of my time, and this game's going to be 100 hours of my time, and this game's going to be 100, it's like so much of. Yeah, and that is. It's hard to. You can't just hardly buy anything that's like, oh, it took me 10 hours and I'm done. It's just. I think
there's a lull right now too. Isn't there a strike or something going on?
There's something going on. There isn't a whole lot. Yeah, there's a voice. Yeah, I think so. I think so, and I think because people are trying to go that route and not have to pay anybody, So, but I tell you but 2024, as far as games, there was a lot that came out, and it's one of the only years, the last couple of years, like I said, especially 2024, with a lot of studio layoffs and some closures, a lot of just games that it seemed like you were saying, like the smaller companies put out stuff like I said, like they put out, Warhammer Space Marine 2. It was like, it's not like, and that sold apparently over like 1 million copies. Or like, look at Helldivers 2. Like Helldivers 2, huge hit. It sold crazy. Kind of has some live service elements, but not egregiously done, and became this big game. Like they put, like this company was like, we didn't even expect that to happen. And so it seems like the smaller companies were trying to put out games. They were just trying to put out games, right? They weren't interested in trying to monetize so much. They weren't interested in, they were like, nope, we're putting out a game, we just love this shit, I hope you enjoy it, and there you go. And I feel like on a lot of these, some of those games, those were really the ones to buy, like not to say don't buy AAA stuff, but the ones that seemed to have the greatest success were the small companies versus the larger companies that were doing layoffs and their games were failing. And it's like, holy cow, right? 2024 was crazy with the amount of big AAA titles that just bombed. Like Diablo 4, while sold really well, just tanked, not too long after, because of the way they kind of hid the way the seasonal stuff works, and how, you could accidentally like buy this and then, oh no, and you didn't mean to because they didn't give you a prompt. It's like there's a lot of weird, strange, because again, they were trying to sell a lot of DLC for the characters, and they were still, again, trying to always online, and there's no offline mode, and they were trying to kind of live service Diablo up, and it's again goes back to that, none of the live service games that are coming out, they've just they just flat out failed. Like Diablo 3 has more players than Diablo 4. That game's been out forever. Like I played Diablo 3 on 360, and then they put out the expansion stuff, and that game has sold better. It shouldn't have, if you think about it. Concurrently, each Diablo has sold better than the next, but you think, wow, really? Blizzard, really? It's like, but they tried to cash in on that stuff. It's like, what live service games are successful? Fortnite, Overwatch, that's about it. Yeah, that's about it.
And its cosmetics, and,
yeah.
And I don't like kind of its shift to the more ESO, like MMO style of thing that it's in. I like the other way better.
I do too.
But yeah, that's. I think we're still in that resurgence of indie games thing, and I think like these studios are going to catch on. I hope, and I would hope that they just find a way to kind of compete with that and churn out these lesser being lesser budget titles.
Yeah.
Lesser game,
You think
it's like, for me, like what games are actually installed on my PS5, most of them are just indie or weird titles. Like, like on my PS5 storage, not my USB expanded, PS4 games.
Yeah.
Like, I got 7 Days to Die, Arcade Paradise, Custom Mech Wars, EDF 6, Empire Ants, Helldivers, Immortality, Robocop, Trepang 2, like that Space Marine, V Rising. I have
indie stuff.
I have Star Wars Outlaws installed. I still have Madden. I still have. I just reinstalled Diablo, but so there's a couple AAA titles, but like it's mostly just different, like Proteus, like just indie stuff that's not that super big budget kind of thing. And I think think that's what people are after.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with that. I kind of look at it like my, when I'm thinking about games that are like it's on mine currently, on my storage. I mean, I have quite literally just, I have Space Marine 2, I have Dark Tide, I have Dungeons of Sandaria, it's like, which has been like a staple of mine to play ever since the game came out. I have Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries, I have, let's see, Custom Mech Warriors, EDF 6, Gundam Breaker 4, it's like a Warhammer Chaos Bane, Strike Team Gladius, which is this little indie tactical RPG like XCOM game where you pick from all these different characters to play as, and there's not much to it, but it's fun. No Man's Sky, technically still an indie title, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor, again made by Neocore. They've made a few games but not many. I got the Outcast game, like I said. I've got the Sword Art Online Last Recollection. Again, it's like you're not seeing, I don't have a whole lot of like the major studio kind of things either, because it does seem like to me that that rise of the indie stuff that just in the last few years has been tremendous, because typically they're not $70 games, and the other thing is these are companies that no, we just really love games, we're going to put out something that's cool, they're not like, oh, we got to figure out how we can make money off this, and bleed people dry, and they can and play our game and nobody else's, and it's like I've always said, it's like you got a platform for making money disguised as a video game versus a video game that's just trying to make their way out there. So I think it's great that there has been that indie push, and you would think the AAA studios would go, well, there's something to be had there, right? But I don't think they know how to scale back their stuff. I don't think they don't know how to spend $5 million on a game. They have to spend $100 million. It's like, because it's like that's what I was talking to my fiance about. We were talking about the AC games, and like they finally put one in Japan. But I was saying it's interesting because why did you ever buy Valhalla? The Viking one. You love all the Norse stuff. Why? I was like, because from point A to point B, if I did 0 side quest, I did nothing in the game other than story missions. It takes 100 hours to complete. And it goes back to that whole, we spent all this money on this game, and you only should play our game and know the game, because screw you and your time, and buy all of our, and that game had a lot of microtransactions and a lot of, it's like, again, like, you're trying to get me to buy all this stuff. I've already bought your game. That should be enough, right? Helldivers was cool because it's like I would log in. Oh, I earned some credits. Oh, I can buy this helmet, or I can, you didn't really have to buy.
Did you see that?
Yeah, which is great. So it's kind of like, it's interesting that they put all this stuff in the game, and they're not like, you don't feel compelled to buy anything. I mean, there is the little cash things you can buy, but you don't really have to. It's just an option, and to not be in your face about it. And that game is an online only game, and it came out at what, $40. So it's kind of like, you'd think other game companies should be like, no, can't do that. We can't give people what they really want. But Warner losing that much money and having to sell off a bunch of their IP to make up, and the layoffs. And yeah, I know that Microsoft did by Activision. They still laid off a lot of people. 1,800's a lot of people. And other companies lay off. Ubisoft laid off people. Ubisoft Montreal laid off people. Activision laid off people. Bungie laid off some people, believe it or not. So it's kind of like these larger companies out there are just like, we're losing our shirt on these games. And it kind of sucks. I hate to hear that. I hate to hear people lose their jobs, and I hate to hear the companies not being successful. But at the same time, it's like, y'all work in the industry to see what has failed, and you're not even seeing that. you just assume that yours. I just don't understand that. How can nobody just speak up? If I was at Rocksteady and working on that game, I don't care if I was the guy that's just writing the programs for the laser bolts in the game or whatever. I would have been like, hey, can I talk to you? Yeah, what's up? This is not going to work. We're doing this is not going to work. Why are we doing this? We are screwed. We will, and no one ever speaks up.
That do say stuff like that, but whether it really goes anywhere. You kind of see it across the board, like with games and just in the world in general. There's a lot of people that have jobs for some reason that suck, and they just it's like, why do you even have this job? Why are you where you are?
Yeah.
And in the quest of being inclusive and being safe and whatever, like there's a lot of people that end up in positions to where they're not necessarily the most qualified person.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
And,
I agree.
And like quality suffers because of it, or I don't know, or people get complacent and they just take the shortcut or whatever. And sometimes you see a really wonderful example of art or gameplay from a large studio, but oftentimes there's lots of missteps. And I don't know. I'm sure it's easy for large-scale projects with hundreds, thousands of people to get derailed and to kind of lose its way. But maybe that's a sign that not everything has to be the most expensive project you've ever done. Maybe you should just kind of focus on making something fun and what people want.
Yeah, because I look at it was almost 70 this year, but look at perfect example. Look at D3 Games, and they're publishing with Bandai Namco now, which they've hooked up with. But think about Earth Defense Force. For all intents and purposes, the game is it has consistently gotten slightly better updated in graphics, but they have always maintained that this is kind of shit, right? Like, it's not. I mean, if I was compared EDF6 graphics to, like Pandora or even Helldivers, for example, it's night and day. But Earth Defense Force is probably single-handedly one of the most over-the-top fun games. Everyone loves it. Anybody that plays it's immediately hooked. They keep making them. They're a popular series, and especially over here now in the West, since the 2017 came out years ago. And it's so interesting to think, here's a game for all intents and purposes. If a big budget game did this, they would hate it. Like this is terrible graphics. And to have a game that's intentionally supposed to be corny, dialogue, voice acting not good, it's supposed to be like a B movie, like it's people love it, but it's so much. It's just such a purely fun, insane, over-the-top, destructive, ridiculously. It's like a bad B movie, and yet it sells well and does well, and it's a series that I absolutely love. And I'm always like, it's so funny when I play it. I go like, there isn't much to this game. There really isn't. It's just mission, big map, that everything can be blown up, lots of shit they throw at you. You can only carry 2 weapons with you, and a little item, like a grenade or whatever now, which is new to the series, where you can carry, 3 things. And it's like, any other big budget game, this would not work. You can't take cover. You can't, it has all the stuff that all the other games have, and yet is more successful than those. It doesn't seem like it's like, well, why? Because I think they know what they have. Like, the game has to be this way or it won't work. People just love the game. So I always like them as an example because that's the only game they really make. They only make Earth Defense Force, and it's been this long-running, super popular thing for a long time. And I wish more big blockbuster, the Ubisofts and Activisions and EAs of the world would go and look at those and be like, okay, what are they doing? How come they're having this success? And just not saying rip them off pound per pound, or one for one, but just look and be like, oh, this is why they're successful. Maybe we should get a little bit of that in there, and they just don't. It's astounding to me. Like they just don't.
Yeah. And maybe it's that I'm getting old or something. But I watched the Video Game Awards this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't.
I watched it, and I watch it every year. There's all kinds of announcements and stuff like that.
That's usually good to watch, yeah.
And I just kind of leave it on and whatever. But man, it was terrible. It's a really like overly produced thing.
Yeah.
It's big, and it really shouldn't be. It should be, it should just be better. But they had tons of announcement stuff, and I'm like, none of these look fun to me. I don't like, what is there to get excited about?
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what the big reveal was this year. Let's see.
Well, I've got 2 in February. I've got Monster Hunter Wilds. And I loved the beta was awesome, and it was like, this is fantastic. And they just really did great on that. And Dynasty Warrior Origins, which I played the demo of that, and it was like they finally used its PS5, so real PS5 Dynasty Warriors outside of Empires 9. And this is like they really went crazy with, no, we're going to put as many enemies we can on the screen. It's like, holy cow, when you're battling and fighting. And they actually made it challenging for once, on where normally you need to waltz through stuff, and you can't in this, and it's really good. So I was like, this is it feels like the other games, but it's different. Those are the 2 that I was excited for, but about everything else I was like, I
mean, I can't say there wasn't anything good. Like they did, they announced the next Witcher, and which I'm sure
people,
is gonna be pretty cool.
People had problems with it already because they're not playing as Geralt and you're playing as Ciri, and I'm like,
yeah, who cares?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I said. I was like, they set her up in the 3rd game to be the next Witcher. Yeah. Like that's actually what they should do.
That's just how people are lame and bitch about everything. Is what
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was some cool announcements. I thought there was. I forget what their last big final announcement was. Was it Witcher or was it something else?
Witcher was a big one. I know that. That was a big one. Yeah, Witcher was a pretty big one. There was a few, though. Like, it wasn't just that, but I know that there was some pretty...
remember. See, that's how, because I don't even remember.
Yeah. He's like, I don't even... Yeah.
I thought... Man, what was that? Was it Witcher? Oh, there's a new Naughty Dog game coming out. I think that was one of the big things.
Well, that's usually pretty
it's a
big
sci-fi
for them.
one.
Yeah, that's usually pretty good for them, right? Like, that's pretty much a big deal. So it looks like what I can look up here, there's a new Ninja Gaiden called Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. And it is made by Koei Tecmo, but it's also made by the Game Kitchen and Dotemu, which they're all part of the same group. Slay the Spire 2. Yeah.
That's how I felt with most of the announcements. It's like, okay, I know people like those franchises and whatever. If you like it, it's all good.
Yeah.
For me though, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't excite me. Like, I would see this big thing and I'm like, okay, all right.
Well, the big ones that more or less was announced was that one, and there was Slay the Spire 2, which Slay the Spire is really good indie game, but
I like the first one, but I'm over it already.
Yeah.
What do I care?
Then Dave the Diver in the Jungle, which is an expansion for that. Thick as Thieves, which is a multiplayer online stealth game from Warren Spector, the creator of Deus Ex. And I don't really give a shit. Just give me another Deus Ex. That's literally what people said after they announced that on YouTube. People said, just make another Deus Ex. That's just, why are you making a multiplayer centric? You're just trying to get on that Overwatch shit, right? And then there's something called Shadow Labyrinth, which is a Metroidvania-style Pac-Man game. Like, I don't care. And then there's Steel Paws, which they literally highlighted a mobile game. Don't care. Some game called Kyora. There's a game called, it's a multiplayer soccer game called Rematch. There's something called, and then Solasta 2, which Solasta 1 plays like the Baldur's Gate game, a lot like that. And if you're into that type of game, of course, Siri is Witcher 4.
And I know people like these games, I suppose, but I'm watching this whole thing and I'm like, who is this for? Because I guess it's just no longer for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just don't like any of these at all.
Yeah, and then there's the Naughty Dog game is Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, whatever that's going to be. That'll probably be good. Then the Elden Ring spin-off called Elden Ring Night something or other. It's a multiplayer spin-off with PvP and PvE arena-like combat, so they're getting into multiplayer stuff. Mafia: The Old Country, which I'm interested in because I love the Mafia series, and that takes place in 1900 Sicily. So that'll be interesting to see that Mafia game come out. I love Mafia, the series.
Yeah, it was cool.
There's a animated superhero game called Dispatch, and it says, I think it plays like the Telltale games. And then Borderlands 4 was a big one, which I love the Borderlands series, more or less, and I really like Tiny Tina's Wonderland, so I'll probably look out for that. But there's a lot. That was some of the announced. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just a lot of stuff that I'm like, I never played the other games, and I probably won't play these. It's kind of like, let's
obviously
see.
Some people like them, and I don't want to diminish anybody's work or anything.
No, yeah.
I feel like, I wonder just, is it that it's shifting focus away from anything that interests me?
Yeah.
Or, like, I wonder what the real deal is. Am I just getting old and this is for a younger crowd that
maybe
are into all this stuff? Like, because obviously they're selling if they're making sequels and stuff.
Well, the other thing
that felt like I'm watching, I'm just thinking, like, who the fuck is this for?
One of the things in here that has been mentioned, it looks like, is The Outer Worlds 2, which I played through the first one. That was really good. But it's Obsidian does a great job. So that would be one that will probably be really good. And apparently they took a lot of cues from Guardians of the Galaxy on this one. So we'll see. A Lord of the Rings game called Tales of the Shire. But they don't know nothing about that. That comes out in March. So that comes out real soon. Oh, and
they've been working on that for a long time. It's like it's kind of like a Animal Crossing-ish kind of thing.
My fiance will be really happy about this. Same developer. This comes out, unfortunately, it's going to be a year from now, but Black Frost Long Dark 2. They're doing a sequel to The Long Dark. So that was a really cool indie title. That was a really good survival kind of game. First Berserker, of course. There's The Last of Us Part 2 remastered. I don't know why they keep remastered. That was already been remastered, but they're remastering it again. I don't know why they have to keep doing that.
I think it's for PC.
Let me see. Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah. Then there's something called Project Sentry, which is made by Ryuga 2, which is the people who make the Like a Dragon series. That will probably be good because that's them. I don't know. Let's just reload it here. I'm just kind of looking through. If this would pop back up, this would be great. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Killing Floor 3. Killing Floor 2 is really fun, like multiplayer zombie kill, whatever. It's actually a pretty fun game. I've played a lot of it. There's
but at the same time, though, whatever with half this stuff. I see it like, okay, you're making another one. The last one was fine, but, like, you could have just probably made something better.
Yeah.
Because like
I'm just kind of going through it just to see what. There's another like Chernobyl game coming out. It's like they've been
stuff. I'm really interested in this random game that's on this just announced list on the PS Store.
Yeah.
That's called Agent 007 Spy Revenge.
I saw that. I don't know. There's not even.
Listen. Immerse yourself in a thrilling retro first-person shooter experience that captures the essence of classic console games. See, this right here has potential to be something
Yeah, but I don't think that even has game pictures. And
It doesn't.
Yeah, it's, if you know the funny thing about the PlayStation Store, anybody that owns a PlayStation,
interests me way more than half the shit you just said.
They're doing that in Turok Origins. They're doing Turok's coming back. That's interesting. There's the new Onimushu is coming out, which hasn't been around in a long
that was good
time.
20 years ago.
Yeah, that was and then Dungeon and Fighter, Arad, new RPG from Nexon. Apparently, Hunt Showdown is going to get a big update called 1896, and Post Malone's in it. I don't know why Post Malone is in Hunt Showdown in 1896.
I think he's like the ringmaster of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the trailer, it seems like.
Netflix has got a game studio now, and their first game is called Squid Game Unleashed. Okay. Netflix games. Netflix is making games now. Fortnite is trying to shift to first-person mode, be it to catch it on Overwatch. Let's see here. There's Crimson Desert is coming, which is a spin-off of the online Black Desert. That actually does look good. There's that Double Dragon Revive coming out, which is, that thing. Then there's... There really isn't, like anything. There really isn't hardly anything.
Double Dragon was good back when it was the only game like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot like that. I mean, you're playing the Rita one right now.
Play Double Dragon for me, like it's always kind of lame because like the characters are so small. Like I'd much rather play, like Rival Turf and like some of those other later Final Fight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean
thought Double Dragon was. It was good for like. Again, when it was the only thing back in Commodore 64.
When all you had, I don't know. Looking at those announcements, it's like if I had to, Outer Worlds 2 are for sure, Borderlands 4 probably, Witcher 4 is going to be good, but there isn't a whole lot of anything else. And I already know that, it doesn't look like there's any Warhammer games that are announced. Actually, there was Mechanicus 2 coming out. And I have the first one, so that'll be kind of an easy sell for me. But there isn't a whole lot. I mean, it's just in 2025, what are we going to be playing? Well, probably No Man's Sky, because they keep just adding shit for free, and that game's been out for 8 years. And I'm probably going to be playing, Warhammer Space Marine 2, because it's got this really cool online component now with PvE, and they got a PvE mode, which is really cool. I don't know if you looked into that. That's cool. And where you play operations, and that's I don't know how far you played into the game, but on the third mission, you have Captain Titus or Lieutenant Titus is he's been assigned to his squad, and he tells 3 of his squad mates, "I need you to go to this thing over here, while we go do this, right? And while you all are doing that, this will help us do this." When you play as that mission as Titus in the game, that's the story mission. The PvE's got an operations where you're playing the people he assigned. That's the coolest thing. They actually oh, that's cool. That actually coincides. So you see how they integrated that. That's just brilliant, bloody brilliant, man. I'm wow, that's cool just to do that. And so, again, that just like you said, it's those announcements were yeah. And like you said, the 007 game, so it's funny. I don't know if you noticed this. I go in the PlayStation Store, and I don't know when it became, Steam, but apparently it's Steam. And they're letting everybody and there's 100 games on there with no pictures, release date sometime, and one of them actually says 2026. I'm what? Why? And some of them actually use AI-generated pictures, and you're these are never going to come out. The one wrestling one that has Conor McGregor in it and somebody that looks like Roman Reigns, the WM. Have you seen that one? Have you seen? And you're just that's never coming out. That will never be a thing. It will never. And you look up who's developing it, and it's these IRL, SRL companies, and you're either they've done mobile games or they've done nothing. There's one on there, Midnight Games has apparently like 100 games coming out this year. Like I mean, there's like 50 games on the store that says Midnight Games. And if you look up Midnight Games, they just do mainly mobile games. They've done very little, and they've all got like ones rating. Like they're the worst. And there's so
Here's
much.
what I like.
I don't know why Sony's even allowing that shit on there. There was one on there that's gone now that literally was called Monster Hunting, and they used pictures that some were definitely like doctored pictures from like Monster Hunter Wilds. And the game is no longer up on there because they were told you have to take that down, like you're not stealing, or Capcom was like, fuck you, you know. So, and I was like, that's funny. And so there's like there's like 5 or 6 mech games with similar like titles and similar like
Here's what I
looks.
like.
I'm like, okay.
Now, a lot of these I actually like playing, but I love seeing them because I like how ridiculous it's getting. And there's 1,000 of them, and it's all the simulator games.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Yeah.
So here's a couple just right off, like I'm deep in this list right now. So Electrician Simulator.
That sounds good.
Okay. Extreme Catch Boat and Crab Fishing Simulator.
Extreme Catch Boat and Crab Simulator. That's gonna be. I can't wait. Got to pre-order it.
How about this one though? Finnish Cottage Simulator.
Finnish Cottage Simulator. So you're in Finland now doing cottages. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Let's see
Oh
what
my
else we
God.
got. Fishing Simulator, Garage Mechanic Simulator, another one, I guess. I like just how ridiculous they get.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the ones?
Grandma Cleaning Simulator.
Grandma Cleaning Simulator in the PlayStation Store. I like the ones that are like the hobo lives and the homeless ones where you got to play like homeless people.
Sign, you know.
Yeah, where you can make your own sign. This is great. You know, this is kind of like all the people who buy like the train, the train sim world.
Yeah.
And you're like yeah, like this, like you said a while back. You said, yeah, you can't even steer. You just hit go.
Just go. I still don't understand that game.
Yeah, I don't really get. You know, it's funny because
listen to how specific this is. Life in Terminal Simulator, Airport Adventure.
Life in Terminal Simulator, Airport Adventure. Those people must have watched the movie Terminal with Tom Hanks and.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. See, now what I found out is on YouTube, like there's one called Ambulance 911 Simulator. There is an actual ambulance game that's actually really well reviewed on Steam. And this company was like, we're going to take that exact concept and do the bare minimum and just, yeah. Here's one I love this. There's Barista Master Cafe Empire. There's City Paradise, which is clearly a GTA clone, like clearly. So here's one. Expedition Survival Simulator. It's got this Jeep, and they're basically just trying to make a knockoff of Mud Runner Expeditions, which is really good, you know. Hentai Shop Simulator. Oh yeah. Here's one. Street Combat Ultimate MMA Fighters. Yeah. Like, I just immediately need to get that. That's just... These are awful, and the fact that the fact that Sony lets them put that is the Xbox store like this too? Is it got like just this bullshit games that will never come out? Okay, here's the perfect example. So there's Architect for Life, and there's Architect Design Simulator. The Architect for Life, if memory serves, let's see, is made by Nacon, which is a big company. That's the legit one, the one that people like got on Steam and really love it. And the other one is the bullshit one, you know, that will never come out. You know, like so many of these games that are on here, like you were talking about these simulators and stuff, that have no pictures and just like a coming soon thing. Like I'm thinking they'll never come out. These will never ever be a thing. I don't know if they put them on there to get you interested to go to the website so they can like spam you with shit or take your information. but there's like a million like Business Gym Empire and like there's just all this there's bullshit games. Oh, look up Caribbean Battle. That's a good one. The cover literally is not Jack Sparrow, but his outfit is identical to Jack Sparrow. You're like, oh, come on. It's just so bad. I can't believe they're even allowed. They're allowed to do this. Like, I just don't understand why Sony. It's funny. Like, you get on there and see the funniest, like, most ridiculous.
A lot of them do come out, though. I mean, like, if you go to the store and you, like, look up simulator, I mean, there's a ton of nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
That makes it, you know.
One of my favorite ones on here, one of my absolute favorite things on here is it's Warfare Chronicles as coming soon, right? But right next to it is Warzone Chronicles 2. So you haven't even got the first one out, but you got the listing for the second one. Like, okay, that doesn't make any. I don't know. It could be a mobile thing or a Steam thing. I don't know. I always just assume that all this stuff is already on Steam.
Some of these sound good though, like Vampire Blood Dynasty.
Yeah, Vampire Blood Dynasty. Yeah.
One down there. But like there's a description that makes it sound good.
The description sounds great. But I like when the developers like Chet Ruski, Tatiana, it's got like 8 names. You're like, what? Why 8 names? Or how about Amiku's Christmas Shop Simulator? Anime game girls chained together, and it's just awful. Like I don't even know why. These games are even they used to never be on the store. This was never a thing, and now it's a thing. And I'm like, why did this become a thing? Like, why are they allowing this bullshit on the store? It's funny, but it's just like what? It really blows my mind. It really just blows my mind that this is a thing. Or like Call of Warfare, trench warfare. Like, it's like you used the warfare twice. Like, what? Why does it need to be twice? Like, why do you have to say what is going on here? So I don't know. I find it interesting. It's just there's a lot of dinosaur games, and like you're right though, the simulators. Yeah, that's insane. It's just so. But then to mix in all that, there's Doom Medieval, which looks like great. And Dragonkin looks great. And certain games on here that are just kind of mixed in. Like they're doing Dreadout. They're remastering the first Dreadout, and the second one's really good. I played it on the Halloween thing, right? And there's these weird, really cool titles mixed in. Like here's the Ebola 3. Well, what about the first 2? Like, why are we getting just the third one? And the second one was on here, and it had a video for the game. And it looks really similar to Resident Evil 8, and that's no longer on here. Like, it's gone. It just vanished from the store, like, completely. That game is no longer up here. But then you get, like, it's weird, man.
So I decided to look up the train games, again, because it's still one that I fail to understand.
Yeah.
The lure of. And I don't want to crap on anybody who actually likes them, but I don't understand the game part of it. Like, so, okay, here's Train Sim World 5.
Yeah.
So, they made 4 already.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a 5th one now because there's more to do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. So I go to the description. Okay, a new way to play! ! Conductor mode.
Okay.
Like, how else would you play it?
No, you would. I mean, but did you just sit in the
other 4 games?
I guess you sat in the engine thing and just looked out the window as you went straight, and just looked out like, okay. Now, if they did like snow,
it took him the 5th game before he could be a conductor.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know.
What the fuck?
Like, I don't know. I really.
It's literally what it says. Listen, a new way to play! Conductor mode. puts you in the role of a guard conductor on any
I,
service.
I don't. I've watched. I don't understand. I've watched the videos on there of it, and I'm like, okay, so the graphics are kind of nice, and there's a couple different ones. There's Train Sim World. There's like another one, Train whatever. But the big one is I think the Sim World one. And I watched like the guys in, like he's hitting the buttons to controlling the train and go to speed, and he's just looking ahead or out the window, and I'm like,
those YouTube people that play those games, like they're in it to win it.
Yeah. It's like
they're living it up playing train games, and I just don't understand.
Yeah, have you seen? I mean, that's bad, and so are the people with the giant weird PC rigs, where their entire PC rig looks like the inside of a semi truck, and they're playing like semi truck simulator or whatever. There's a million of those. I'm like, how and why? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just at this point, just go get your CDL. Just go get your CDL and just go do that. But no, I tell you what's funny is I don't get it either, the train stuff. But yeah, those people
are.
What's
the big series? I can't think of it. It's not trains. What's the?
I'll tell you. Hold on a second. It's one of the trains. And let me look at. There's so many of them. Let me see. There's a couple of big ones. There's train. I know train. There's Train Sim World. There's Train Life. No, Train Sim World. That's the big one. That's the big one. That's the big popular one. I think it is. Because there's only Train Life Railroad Simulator, which is kind of new on the block. There's Steam Train Simulator. But no, actually, it looks like Train Sim World, I think, is the big one. It's the one that's most popular. I don't see any others on here.
I know people were conducting trains in that a long time ago. It's not 5. Right?
Maybe they took it out in 3 like they do in Madden, and then put it back in as a new feature, to sucker you back into. Because if you look at the game, it looks good, but I mean, are you just looking out a window? I mean, it actually does look good. Like, it looks good.
I mean,
but it like, if you're just looking at the window and it's raining and you're just passing along a track, like the inside cockpit looks cool, the day and night looks cool, but it's like, it just says, all it says is you just got to master the tracks and trains of iconic cities across 3 new routes. It's a rail hobby. Immerse yourself in the ultimate rail hobby and embark on your next journey. We swept off your feet with commuter mayhem on the West Coast Main Line, including the Northwestern Class 350 and more. I don't know anything about that. And then it says, there's your conductor mode. A guard conductor on any service, route hopping, fast travel across routes to catch the action at any station. A live map, Creators Club photo mode. It just seems, I don't know. And then if you go to like the add-ons, there's all kinds of like add-ons and tracks from around the world and different kinds of trains, and now you're going through snow, and now you're going through, it just seems, it seems to me that the idea is I guess if you're just a train enthusiast, right? Because graphically, it looks really good. Like, that's the inside of the train. It looks remarkable. Yeah, you get one view. It should be the highest end thing ever. And if you're just looking out the window and you just your idea, I'm traveling on a train. That's it. But I mean, how about this? How about if you're gonna make a train game, just make Snowpiercer the game, and you have to like fight your way from the back where all the poor people are at or whatever, all the way to the front on that giant train, and you're going across the world, and make it like a survival, thing. Or how about do what they did with Metro? Metro Exodus, you're on a train, but you go through seasons and you're traveling across Russia, and you have to get off and do all this cool shit in like an open world set. Like, Exodus is awesome. Like, there's your train game right there. I don't know. It's weird. It's strange. No, but like I said, as I digress, like I said, 2024 has been an interesting year. It's to me, it has been like the indie games are where it's at. This has been the successful year for small game companies, and kind of a shit year for big game companies. They just are not. They're not. they're not selling like they used to because of the phoning in thing, and I don't think it's going to change. I think it's, I think it's the big things that happened. One of the big things to me was Microsoft giving up exclusives, seemingly going towards cloud gaming, maybe potentially getting out of the console market. There's a lot of interesting ways that's going for them. I know some people I had talked to said they think that's stupid. I'm like, do you know how much money they save by not making a console? Like, they lose money on consoles when they sell them. So it's like, even though you think they don't, they do. And that's every company. So I think Microsoft letting loose some of their exclusives, I think is a good thing. It helps them generate income. And I mean, not like I'll ever get to play Halo on another console, but there's potential for other games. I mean, I got to play Sea of Thieves. I got to play...
You say that, but I think that Master Collection is rumored to be on PlayStation.
Really? Wow, that would be wild. I would love to see Starfield get shored up, just because I probably won't, but I would love that, just because I love all those space games.
I feel like they're really just shifting their focus to the cloud game thing with Game Pass and stuff.
Yeah.
Probably play into more of that, Xbox Cloud Gaming, and like I don't know. I don't know. Like, the way they executed this generation of Xbox was still terrible to me. It was a great system.
Yeah.
They bought up a lot of studios, and they put themselves in a position to really do something good, but they haven't at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It seems like the only move that makes sense now is to just not do that anymore.
Yeah,
focus more on the Xbox Cloud and create your platform that like you can license to Sony and other things, and let somebody else have that battle, because they're just not. I don't think they're trying hard enough.
I think it's one of those things where if you were to ask me, it saves them money in the long run. It also helps if they're like, okay, we'll let these games that normally wouldn't be on our system on your all systems or our Nintendos of the world, or PlayStation, mainly PlayStation and PC, because that just opens them up to make money, right? Like, that's again a way to make revenue, because Sea of Thieves came out, I got it, I signed into my PlayStation, turn PlayStation on, sign in, play Sea of Thieves, sign into Xbox. It's like I'm playing on Xbox servers. This is weird. It's so I'm signed in under my Xbox name, not my. You know what I mean? So it's like that's weird. And to me, it's like to me, I feel like if you're going to let loose on some of those exclusives, that's a way for them to generate money. If they're going to get out of consoling and not do any more consoles or whatever they're doing, that saves them money. I think at any rate, I feel like Microsoft is trying to be like, they're just trying to figure out what's the best way we can generate money and save money, and because I think they're going to be the people, even though you think people are like, oh no, cloud gaming, people really just want their consoles. I think they're trying to jump up onto the future of how gaming is going to be, and they want to be on that now versus later, so that when the time comes,
I think they're trying to develop the Netflix of gaming, is what they're doing.
And I think and it makes sense,
that that's a bad thing.
No.
They're half in this console war, and that's not going to work. Like,
no.
They didn't go far enough with what they needed to do, and perhaps they got a little. With buying the Activision Blizzard thing, like maybe with some of those promises to get it to go through the full FCC and all that stuff, they kind of maybe they gave too much to get the deal done and say, hey, okay, we're going to leave it on PlayStation for this. Like maybe they altered their original plan just to get the sale done.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I don't know. But I just, it's a very weird thing. Like, from the get-go, they said they don't really like console exclusives because you are limiting your audience. But
True.
you're kind of not, like, if you have enough, you'll sell the console,
Yeah.
right? And that's what like Nintendo has a lock on Mario. They're never letting Mario on anything else in the foreseeable future. You want
No.
to play Mario, you gotta get Nintendo.
And
Now,
sadly,
everybody loves Mario.
the platforming on that's pretty outstanding. That's why it's
Like,
got
everybody's
that
kind of
tenure.
got that stuff, you know. Like,
Yeah.
Xbox has had Halo forever. They had Gears of War, but they put one Halo game out in recent times. Like, the last Gears of War was who knows when,
It's been a
Like,
while. Yeah.
they bought up these studios, but they're not. They'll put out Starfield, but then Indiana Jones is like a timed exclusive.
Yeah.
They gotta create more incentive to buy an Xbox, and there's hardly any.
No, I would agree on that. And the funny thing is like I would tell people all the time, like I don't really care. Like Sony, put your God of War out on Xbox. It will sell like gangbusters. You will make crazy money. Like put your exclusives, do what they're doing, because let everybody just share like those experiences. Because I get why you don't, but I don't get why you don't. Like I don't get it. Like it would be
because
crazy.
You generate enough interest. Like when you look at the way Sony did it the best way, because
Yeah.
like see, I got an Xbox for a handful of reasons. I largely got one so I could play. I could use it as a new way to play the backwards compatible games and not hook
Yeah.
up 360 as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because Xbox did buy up some studios, there were at least going to be a few things I knew I was going to want to play. I wanted to play the Forza games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But like that removed, there's not, it's like, okay, now I got one. Let me get the things that I could play that are not on Sony. And there's not that much. But you flip that around, though, in PlayStation, there's a ton of exclusives. So
There's a lot there. Yeah.
If you're an Xbox player and you're like, I really want to play God of War. I wish that was on Xbox. You could be like, well, but if I got a PlayStation, I could play God of War. I could play Last of Us. I could play Spider-Man. I could play, like the list goes on and on and on and on.
Well, see, and that's the other thing too, because they were, like, I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I've been sitting here, and I told you I've been playing Marvel's Avengers. I'm like, Spider-Man was a Sony character. That didn't come on the Xbox Avengers game. That's on my version of it, and he plays like you're playing the Spider-Man games, and it's remarkable. It's like, okay, well, and I think that whole, like you said, like exclusive-wise, if you want certain things, and it'd be great if everybody could just afford all the systems all the way around, but, I think Microsoft just decided, in my opinion, to get early in on this new digital thing, because that's what people are doing. People are way less, like GameStops are dying and going to be gone, I'd say, in the next 5 years or less. They're done. They're closing 600 more stores this year. So it's like digital media. As a matter of fact, I didn't know this. I have a hard copy of Space Marine 2, but after the game came out, they made a low print of those, and so kind of making people, if they wanted it, you had to get the digital. So I think there's that push towards that right now. The only drawback is if you're going to have a console, you better put a 5 terabyte hard drive in the damn thing, because like these games are huge, right? I can only have so much installed. Like right now, all my really top-end games are 80 gigs plus, and it's like I run out of, that's like 10 games on my hard drive, so, and I play more than that. So I think it's, in one thing, I applaud them for jumping in early and embracing that, to have their foot in there, right? Because once that becomes the norm, they'll be the first ones to have done it, and at that point would have been doing it for a long time and done it the best. Like everyone else will be playing catch up. So they're going to be like a little tick they can't get out of them. But for right now, they're in it for like the end game, where Sony and the others are more like the here and now. Like, this is what we're doing now, right? So I think
It's just
and Nintendo's
console things were just weird because the Xbox One was a major misstep. I said it when it first came out. It was a terrible idea, and look at it, it was.
Yeah.
The Xbox Series is a great console, really, but I don't even know why they made it because like all the choices they're making is like they don't even want a console, really.
Yeah. It's kind of like they went from this to that.
So it's like okay, we're gonna do this. You know what? We changed from that. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Who knows if they'll make another Xbox? I mean, now and again, like you can play a ton of games on Xbox. It's just why play Xbox when you can play PlayStation in a way? Because you get way more advantage playing PlayStation. Like
at this point. Yeah, at this point, yeah, I agree.
And I mean,
and I don't even think
there's not a great games, and I guess like I don't know. It's just
here's a good example when you think about this. When you think about, at one time people bought Xbox because of Halo, and partially because of the story and the gameplay, and partially because of the multiplayer. But then it's kind of like, fast forward, all these years later, there are a lot of first-person shooters out with multiplayer and good stories, and like they're doing it better. So it's like, not that I don't think Halo has any weight. I don't think it has the same weight as it holds because there's more options now, right? So if you're going to go like, I'm not denying anything. Halo is tremendous. A tremendous series. All the games, the newest one had that sort of openish world kind of pseudo thing going on, and some people didn't like that. Others people liked it. I thought that was a good idea just because it's interesting to expand on the lore, to expand on. But again, I don't think it holds as much weight as it once did for people. And I think it's interesting
too. It's a hard sell for a console when you have Halo and Gears and Forza. That's it.
Yeah. When you got those three, and Forza, Horizon in particular with its open world and all the stuff you can do. Like, it's weird because even like Need for Speed Unbound, for example, is open world. It's a different from Forza, but they allow you to do all that weird exact same car customization now. Like, it's like everyone's taking from everybody, and now you have, I could play this, or I could play that. They're both similar. You can kind of do the same shit. Maybe I just like one series over. So it's like, a number of years ago, Forza was it. Forza to me at one point was the car game, right? And then everybody else was kind of, even though Need for Speed's been around forever, they were kind of phoning that in anyway. So it was like, but this was right here, right? You had those two. And then it was like Gran Turismo kind of really slipped off the map. Now they got like a free one called Gran Turismo Beginners. I don't know. Anyway, so my first. So it's kind of like that don't really count anymore. So I looked at that game, even though I didn't have like the newer Xboxes, it's like that was it. But then all of a sudden, Need for Speed really jumped up, and this game jumped up, and now Test Drive came back out, and this game came out, and you're like, okay, now I have more options. And they're all kind of doing the similar thing. So it's like, I may not have Forza, but I have this.
There's a reason, though. There's a reason why, and it's because that formula was so good.
Yeah,
now, to me, my personal opinion, I still don't think anything beats Forza Horizon. It's an amazing game.
I agree.
The newest one or whatever. And I'm not downplaying that or Halo or Gears. I still like Gears.
No, those are good games.
One of those in a little while. I think they're bringing it back here.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. So many games are so multi-platform. So like, you can play most of the new games on Xbox just like you can play on PlayStation. But there's got to be incentive to buy either or.
It's true.
You weigh up the exclusive, like that's why exclusive exists. To sell systems, and you can toss the Xbox exclusives in a cup and the Sony in the pool.
Yeah, and and the thing is too that's weird is I'd always said Sony being a Japanese company, not that these games are not on Xbox, but they're so heavily associated with Sony. A lot of people don't realize that, like, oh, Monster Hunter, that's been a Sony thing forever, right? Well, it's kind of a Nintendo thing, but it did start out on Sony's platform. Most of them went to, like, the Nintendo, like, 3DS and stuff. I was like, but Monster Hunter's on Xbox, but nobody associates that because it's Capcom. Oh, Capcom, Japanese, they just... So much of the same games are on both systems, but there's that weird association with Sony, you know what I mean? So you don't ever think about it. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, No Man's Sky, yeah, it was exclusive for a year. You can get the same experience on Xbox right now. You can play No Man's Sky all you want. But it's so closely associated with Sony, where people don't... So I don't think everybody realizes that a lot of the same games are on both systems. But it's kind of like Dynasty Warriors, same thing. I always associated so heavily with Sony because for a long time it was only on that. And then they got put over, or now they come out on both, but it's an association, right? It's like, the Asian market, that's their thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing because it's good, but, like, there's also the blurriness on Microsoft putting, almost everything on PC. So, like,
yeah, true.
You can play Forza on PC, Halo on PC, like, so, like, again, what's the reason to buy the system?
Yeah, because you could just,
I mean, not everybody can afford a gaming computer and setup and things like that. So, to have those things, but, like, there's. I
mean, currently you
really
can play.
There's anything that you can only play on that system.
Well, and interesting enough, like, you could sit there and be like, I can go play Forza Horizon on my console, or you could sit at your recliner and play it on your Steam Deck. It's like,
the Master Chief Collection.
That's what I mean. So, like, you don't even have to like, if someone went out there and said, I don't own any consoles, but I think I want something like a Steam Deck, like a portable thing. And then they would go, let's say they don't know, they know about console games, and they're like, oh shit, I don't need an Xbox. I can get it on here, right? And typically for cheaper than console, right? So you're like, like you said, why would you want to go out and buy that? Why would you buy a whole console when you can buy this thing or whatever? Or maybe you have a laptop that you bought for $800. You're like, oh, I can play Steam, I can get a controller that looks just like the extra, or I can use an actual gun and just play all the games without, you know what I mean? So there is that incentive, like you said, there's an incentive there. So if there's no incentive to buy your console, then what's the point? Yeah. And the funny thing is,
push to Xbox Cloud, and I think they're trying to integrate that in, like, Samsung TVs or something.
Yeah, they're doing some crazy stuff. Yeah. So they're,
like,
I think,
fine, whatever, and like, I own literally everything.
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
And I don't mean that in any, like, bragging way or anything, but I mean, I could play Halo multiple ways, like on my Steam Deck, on my computer, on my Xbox, whatever.
Yeah.
You take away the incentive to have to play it on something. Truthfully, though, I'm just a console player. I don't like playing games on PC. I don't like it. The exception I make is the Steam Deck because it's a handheld console, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can put it on a dock and play it on the TV just like anything else. So that's kind of my only way that I'll play PC games for the most part.
Yeah.
Anymore. So I will sit down and play it on an Xbox.
Yeah. Well, and
there's just no reason I have to.
Yeah. I tell you though, it's interesting because that just, you now see that fundamental paradigm shift where Microsoft is like, we're going to do this now. And Sony's like, okay, well, we're just going to do what we always do. And then Nintendo's like, we haven't cared for years. We now have the best, outside of a Steam Deck, which, but for a Switch, it's like for anybody that just wants portability that's affordable, they're killing it. They're crushing it, right? With its Bluetooth stuff that you could, like, they have Bluetooth now, and they have, like, stuff you can do that the other consoles can't. So, like, nobody's competing anymore, really, with each other. Like, they really aren't. There's no longer, like, the console wars. Yeah, and so now that there's no console wars, competition, I've always felt, widespread, really interesting things the companies would do to try to get your dollars, right? And like, it's kind of like Madden. Once no one could make the license, once they had the license, nobody can make any NFL games, so we don't really have to try. So, and that's what EA's done. And I think if Microsoft, we both know the direction they're going to go. Sony's going to kind of do what they've always done. Their consoles, and that's what they know, that's what people want. Nintendo's doing their own thing and have for years, and they've got their little corner. They've got their little slices cut out. So Microsoft shifting away from consoles into the console wars effectively, right? So you're like...
And Steam Deck, they just announced, like, they're releasing the Steam OS on, like, other things now.
Yeah.
So, like, other handhelds will kind of mimic the Steam Deck in a way.
Which is interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's just a different shift. And so, like, I guess, depending on what you want, it's kind of like not having to, like, oh, well, I can just whatever. Or I'll just, it's like your choice of what you want to play on is not really going to be determined anymore by exclusives. But I think features, like... Yeah, unless it's Sony. I mean, Sony's really, if you want the God of War and the Last of Us and whatever, all the different things, Astrobot, which apparently won big award, the Game of the Year awards, and so you're like, for being this tremendous platformer, and you're like, okay, so that's their Mario or whatever, but yeah.
And that's still a very real
thing. So I think,
like, it's kind of there, but the lines are getting blurry, and you can kind of play your own way, which is good, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's
yeah.
It's hard. It's a lot to sift through.
2024 was a very interesting year in the gaming industry. Successes, a lot of failures, a lot of great games came out, mainly by indie studios. For me, best year for Warhammer. The best two Warhammer games, that Dark Tide, was another one of those exclusives that Microsoft asked Fat Shark to make for them. Like, it wasn't like, kind of like how Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 was on the Switch, and it's never been on anything else because Nintendo was like, we need you to make this, and we're paying you to make this, and they made it for them and only them. And Microsoft went to Fat Shark and said, we want you to make this, here's the money, make it. And the fact that 2 years later it comes on the PlayStation, which... it was supposed to be exclusive, period, right? Until Microsoft shifted their focus on exclusives and allowing other. So, but for me, like Warhammer, fantastic year. Two best Warhammer games I've ever played came out, and I was so happy to have that. I was like, yes, and so for me, like, that's great. I was like, man, Dark Tide, that'd be the reason I'd buy an Xbox. And I don't have to now. So it's like, I wasn't going to. My lady would kill me. But I look at it like, we sat there and I thought, this is good. Like, this year was great. But I will say this, I want to kind of like wrap it up here anyway. 2024 was an interesting year. Both me and you played different games, but me and you, interesting enough, both also gravitated towards smaller titles, smaller studios, even though you did play like college football, Madden, and I played, some of the other, like the bigger games, more Avengers, and went back to some old stuff and some big AAA titles. I was playing Skull and Bones, Ubisoft, because, I play their games. And so it's like, and even though Skull and Bones failed, like totally failed, and, but I got into pirate games, and I just look at it like, it's nice that me and you both kind of gravitated towards the indie scene and away from AAA, which typically it used to be the opposite, And so for 2024, we just had a lot of layoffs and studio closures and just, different, we just talked about Microsoft shifting their focus and what they want to do, and just, it was a really interesting year in gaming. And just what's coming out this year, a lot of it's like, it's like it's not like I'm not like, oh my God, this is coming. You know what I mean? So it's. I mean, like I'm excited for Greedfall 2 by Spiders. They make some of the best RPGs. I've said that for a long time. And Greedfall 2, the only other instance where they've made a sequel to one of their games, because that game sold really well, and it's like Greedfall was an awesome game. So, and Spiders makes games like BioWare used to make. Like they're again an indie studio out of France. So you like. Okay.
I don't think there's any game that's coming out that I'm interested in.
Yeah. Greedfall 2 is one for me.
A single one, really.
And I don't.
Looking.
Yeah.
Maybe Carmen Sandiego.
Maybe. No. The Agent 007. Agent Double. That might be.
I'm interested more in that.
Yeah, that might be pretty good.
I am actually curious about Carmen Sandiego, to be honest, because I think they're kind of like it looks kind of dumb kid game. But their intro video, it's like
you actually
back in the day.
Yeah, you actually play as Carmen this time. Like instead of we're like it's Carmen Sandiego, and it's we're in the world. Well, now you'll know where she's at. Like there's this you'll know. Well, she's in India. Okay.
That's why it's not we're in the world. It's just Carmen.
It's Carmen Sandiego. Yeah, which is interesting. I think that's good. I don't know. I feel like I said.
Fall actually looks interesting.
I've seen that. That looks pretty interesting. Yeah, I have seen a little bit on that. That's pretty cool. And I don't know if it'll ever come on consoles, but I know it's gotten pretty good. Like I think it's in beta, but Stalker 2 came out finally after years or whatever.
Xbox.
Oh, is it on Xbox? Okay, yeah, they're supposed to be PC and Xbox. I don't know if it's exclusive, but I know that came out to much kind of fanfare. People are like, they love it. Like. People are loving it, so I don't know.
Xbox and it's only on there. So yeah, there's another exclusive.
There's Stalker 2, yeah.
Last month, I think.
Yeah, because I have the remastered one, like the first one, and it's pretty cool. But I don't know. I think it's like I said, it's been the year of indie, and I'd almost put money on it that this year is going to be the same. It's going to be small companies that's going to dominate over the larger companies. I don't know. After this point, I doubt Ubisoft will be making any more Star Wars games. Disney's going to be like, no, you're done. And, people are losing money on these games. And I hate that because, I know if I was to play Outlaws, I would probably find a lot about it that I like. And the sad part about games like that come out that are less than stellar, they never get re-reviewed when they've been patched and fixed a year later, 2 years, whatever. You know what I mean? Like they don't ever. So the initial thing is like, oh, that sucks, and the YouTube video, oh, it's terrible. But then you might come back to it, and it'll be like 6 months. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome that they're doing that.
A game that has like a major following, but I've never really gotten into it. I wanted to kind of spend time on it. I want to play that Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia. I think I have heard of that.
So it's listed as a VR title, but it's VR optional, so you can play with a controller and stuff too.
Okay.
But it's a 4-player, I think up to 4-player online co-op, paranormal investigator game.
Neat. That's cool. That sounds neat.
It's like $20.
I'll have to look it up. Yeah, something me and Des could get into and play.
But it came out I think a couple of years ago on PC.
See, I like stuff like that because it's different. That's pretty cool. There's a game that has a kind of sort of retro look. Because horror is real, indie horror is crazy good. A Chasing Static, that's a neat one. Where you're using EMF waves, sound stuff to try to find ghosts and stuff. And there's one that Desiree told me about PC. I wouldn't be surprised if it don't make a console. The PC game where you have to inspect prefab cabins that are some are haunted and some aren't, and you got to go in there and make sure they're not haunted. That game's blowing up big on PC. I watched some gameplay. It's generally scary. You're in this factory, and this big cabin just down on the line, and you got to go in to see if it's haunted, and if they just happens to be, it's a weird concept, I know, but you go in to see if it's haunted, And if it is, you gotta like purge it. Look into it. It's fucking crazy. Like it's like, oh, wow, like for being such a silly kind of thing. Do you know the name of that? Oh God, let me look it up. Because it actually is big. Like it's a big, like people talking a lot about it. What is it? The Cabin Factory. And it's really big, like right now on the PC, and yeah, the Cabin Factory video game. Yeah, it's on Steam. Yeah, it just says a short horror anomaly hunting experience, 60 minutes, only an hour long, and it's inspired by liminal spaces and psychological horror walk. It's like $2.99.
Yeah, I see that, $2.99.
Yeah, but apparently you just walk through, and these cabins come down the conveyor, and you walk in there, and you gotta inspect them, and it's crazy. Yeah. Looks pretty neat, and I know it's got a big following right now, so might want to look into that. It's cheap.
Maybe that's a good Steam Deck.
Yeah, just kind of check out. But no.
So you check out the Phantasmagoria thing. That one's got a big following.
I'll have to do that. Yeah, definitely.
That'd be a cool. That might be a cool co-op streamer to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, like I said, I don't want to keep you. We'd want to talk a little bit about this year and the games we've been playing. Guys, if you did tune in tonight, I know we always go a little long, but this is our year in review. Coming up on the Gaming Roundtable, I do plan on to get back into the video stuff. Do you plan on doing some stuff on the channel this year? Are you going to try to get back, get some time, throw some stuff up for people to watch or view? Because I'd still like to do. I'm going to get back into. I'd like to try to do. Showcase the new Warhammer games I've been playing. Because I do a week of Warhammer games again, and I'd like to try to get back into doing some roundtable stuff for our viewers. What about you? Do you think you're going to be doing some stuff, or maybe get back into doing some stuff?
I did stream some of that Transformers racing.
Oh yeah.
Not too long ago, Galactic Trials. I did do a little bit of that. Maybe, I don't know. Right now I'm focusing on MD, finishing that up, playing through some Steam Deck stuff. So I won't stream. Maybe I'll stream Xbox, but I won't stream Steam Deck stuff.
Okay.
But I got some titles that I want to circle back on PlayStation for.
Yeah.
So perhaps, I guess there's some things, I still haven't dove into Astrobot yet.
Yeah.
I want to get into Pacific Drive and play some of that.
Yeah, that's actually really cheap right now. That didn't sell well either, even though it was like a lot of critics liked it and people talked good about it, but that didn't sell well. It's an indie title, but it's been like almost perpetually on sale, and you just don't hear a lot about it, but people talk really good about it. And I think it's because, people hear the word roguelike and they immediately get turned off by it because roguelikes are not all created equal. So, but it looks really cool though. It looks cool. One I was interested in.
I know it's currently on sale, but the Silent Hill 2 remake.
Oh yes, Silent Hill 2. Oh,
potentially in playing that.
Me and Desiree talked about it. We both talked about wanting to get The Thing remastered because that game was awesome back in the day. Now, I'm really surprised, though. Yeah, no, it's like 23, but what I'm really we were surprised about was that could have been a great opportunity for a co-op situation where everybody plays, and they didn't do that. I'm like, oh, they could have done it where 2 or 4 people could play the game together. That would have been awesome. But I guess, with the paranoia thing and the who's who, they could have...
that isolation part.
Yeah, I get that, but they almost could have done it almost like in the... what's the game? They probably would have, but like they could have done it in a way where it'd almost be like, what's it called? What's those games? What's the one where? No, the game where you like you're trying to suss out who the bad guy is. Oh, imposters. Like something like that, to where 4 players, and then you don't know who if it was the thing or not, but the person who is would know. They could have done something like that, but even if they didn't, that game was so good. That game was a game back in the day that generally spooked me, like horribly. Like it was a spooky game to play. That was a good game though, and that's out. And I'd like to get that because that was a really good game. Desiree would like to get it, but she'll probably would get it and not play it. She'd be too scared to play. No, I'm just joking. I love you.
I should have already got Silent Hill because I bought it from Nick.
Yeah.
But it was like Black Friday, and I got it for $30.
Yeah.
I almost bought 2, and I didn't because I was like, who knows when I'll play it. But then now it's like full price again, and I still don't know if I'm ready to play it, but I kind of may want to here soon. So, I don't know. You don't want to.
Well, did you see the new Silent Hill coming out? Silent Hill R or whatever it's called. Is it R? Silent Hill F? Silent Hill F. The one where it takes place. It's not at the Silent Hill location, but it's part of the whatever. It's Japanese. It looks cool. Oh, and real quick, guys, and you should check this out too. There's a demo for it on the PlayStation, and I played the demo, and it's really cool. Check out, if you haven't downloaded, try it out, Slitterhead. Slitterhead is crazy. That's where you like possess different people, and it's in an open world, and you fight these creatures, and I mean these things it's insane. You just gotta check it out. That's a great demo of it. You like have control over like the blood inside your body, and you can make it into a weapon. It's wild. It's very, and you can like, you're this little entity, and you can jump out of bodies and like jump up, and because you're in Kowloon, the city that's like really vertical and very cramped, and you can like possess this guy and jump into this next body, and then you can find certain ones that have a better like way of whatever. You just have to play it, because when you fight, like at the end of the demo, you fight a creature and it's just wild, but then you get to fight its true form, and it's some of the wildest, generally scary like creature designs I've ever seen like in the game. Slitterhead, the demo, it's fantastic. It's really different. It's like Asian horror. You just gotta play it. Check out the demo, and I recommend that to anybody listening. Check, that game is crazy. I think it's on sale right now for like, I think it's 25, 24, and the demo I just decided to download to see what it's about, and I was like, this game is crazy. Like it's really wild. You got to check it out. Download the demo. You'll like it. It's really cool. It's a cool horror action game. It's awesome. Love it. That's what I would recommend. But no, that, like I said, 2024, that was the year in review, guys. We talked about the games we played and the hours we put in. We've talked about a variety of different things and subjects, from Microsoft to Sony. Nintendo got thrown in there a little bit. And again, we always appreciate you all tuned in. We are been a little lax at days a little lately with the vids, but we're going to try to get some stuff up and this year, and try to get back into the groove of things. And like I said, we really appreciate anyone that stuck around and watched our vids here on the the Unpaid Gamers channel, and checked out the Gaming Roundtable stuff, the Band Law stuff. His Apex Legends videos are still up there and still very entertaining to watch. John's Posthuman Guest Car Thoughts, great on that. A lot of different things he talks about. If you want to hear what his thoughts about where he's going to his various workplace job sites and stuff. So like, we have a lot of different content up there on the channel, so please check that out. Subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notifications, so you'll get notified when any time any videos of ours goes up. And John, I want to thank you for joining us here for Table Talk. It's been a pleasure, and giving us your thoughts and insights on last year in gaming, which was pretty crazy. A lot of different things went on, and it's definitely, indies won this year, or last year. So, yeah, but no, thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate it.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, guys, check us out next time. Please subscribe to the Unpaid Gamers on YouTube. That's Unpaid Gamers. You can also email me at gamingroundtableupg@gmail.com. It's all one word, gamingroundtableupg@gmail.com. Have any thoughts, suggestions, or ideas, or suggestions for games that I may have not talked about, you've heard, and I might want to look into? Just a couple things. As I said, check out the Slitterhead demo if you want a decently priced, pretty fun mobile-like type style game that doesn't have mobile transactions in it. Star Trek Legends, if you're a Star Trek fan, it's a pretty fun game. The deluxe version comes with all DLC for $10. Right now, it came out at $6.99, so it's cheap, but they actually did a really good job on its turn-based combat and story and different things you can do in it. I've actually been enjoying that. I recommend that one for your Trek fans that are out there. And of course, we have a lot of different games coming out on the horizon. A lot of we're not really too keen on playing, but the big ones that are coming is Witcher, of course, 4 and Borderlands 4 is two big ones, Outer Worlds 2, and a few others in the pipeline. For me, I'm more or less looking forward to Dynasty Warrior Origins and Monster Hunter Wilds. And there's some other stuff coming out there. John is interested, of course, in the new 007 game coming out. So, no, it's backlog. You got to get back into the old stuff. And again, definitely check us out there on unpaidgamers.com. Please subscribe to that. Subscribe to Gaming Roundtable. And we will see you on the next episode of the Gaming Roundtable, of course, brought to you by Unpaid Gamers on YouTube and occasionally Twitch, but mostly YouTube. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. And as always, gamers, good gaming.